Good afternoon and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Starbase Weekly, the RGV aerial deep dive into images he captured from the ground and air in Boca Chica, Texas. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. The channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Starbase Weekly. My name is Mauricio. This is episode 66, and I'll pass this along to Indy, sir.
Welcome everybody, as Mauricio said, episode 66, and this guy is a trooper. He tried for 2 weeks to get on a plane, and he got on a plane yesterday midday, just for us. Thank you, Mauricio. Thomas, I'll hand it over to you.
I had the same experience, but different plane. It's glad to be here. It's going to be another awesome week with a lot of detail to go over. So I think, is it just going to go right to Zach today, or do we have any?
I think I'm the only one left.
All right.
Well, good morning or good afternoon or evening, whatever it is for you all. Thanks for joining us today. I'm happy to be here. And as everybody's mentioned, it's great to be able to cover some flyover images again. As you guys can see, we have a really cool shot to start off with here, showing the build site at a pretty late hour in the day. This was probably around like 5 p.m., right, Mauricio?
This was around, I would say around 5:30, over the build site around 5:45. So we got those yellowish colors. If you look at it just right, you get this glare on the water, which is pretty interesting. But not the best lighting.
It looks like Mars. I like it.
But we made it work.
Hey, well, I mean, it's been 2 weeks, so I think it could be at night, and we would still be happy to have it.
Now you got me wondering what the night shots would look like.
I mean, the cool thing about night shots is we'd be able to see into the Mega Bay and HighBay pretty easily. But other than that, it would kind of suck. But still, it's nice to get the aerial shots this week because Starbase is pretty busy right now. We're still waiting to hear about just the most basic news, which would be SpaceX getting a launch license. And beyond that, we're waiting for, I guess we don't really know what the end is as far as how much upgrades they're going to do to the launch site before they actually launch Booster 7 and Ship 24. But in the meantime, things have not slowed down at the at the production site, if anything they've actually picked up. So we'll have a lot to talk about when we get there. But I guess we'll start off with Massey's per usual. So let's go ahead and go over there. And, even with it being late in the day, this is really cool. Just how clean it looks out here. This is a great image, actually. So, yeah, I mean, we've had some news at Massey's this week, which would be the first cryo test of ship 25, which was, I think, about 5 days ago. So that was an interesting story for me, actually. I was making dinner a few days ago, and I got a message from Andrew Keating, who was at Rocket Ranch. Andrew's from Cosmic Perspective, if you guys don't know the name. But he actually overheard one of the depress vents from ship 25 and messaged me. He's like, I hear some venting over at Massey's. So we swung Raptor Roost, Lab Padres Raptor Roost camera around just in time to see them detanking, which was pretty awesome. So first cryo test of a Starship outside the launch site has been completed. And yeah, I mean, it's lots of progress happening out here. But we have some other tests coming out here as well too. So we do have the nose cone gel that's out here, and I don't think we know whether or not that's been tested, right, Thomas?
Yeah, there's no way to really tell besides like ground shots. If we get something with a lot of dents that wasn't there before, that's the only way to say that it's been tested. And they can also do additional testing afterwards, where it's even more denting or additional let's say pulling it down in different directions. So it's going to be very difficult to tell.
Yeah, and speaking of ground shots, I do have some good ground shots to show that. So we can go ahead and take a look at it. And I looked at this image for, oops, that was the wrong way to zoom out. I looked at this image for quite a while this morning just to see if you could see anything on it. And you really can't. I mean, but that's not a bad thing. And it's also, I mean, if anything, it's a good thing that we don't see any dents or anything like that on it. But the bad thing about that is it makes it obviously makes it so that we can't really tell whether or not this test has been completed yet. So, I mean, just looking at it, it looks pretty normal.
Yeah, it's up the nose cone area where you would see the most dents. You've got the kind of the X and Y direction. You'd push it and pull it, and yeah, I don't see anything. Like there's no curvatures that shouldn't be there. So it looks like they haven't tested it yet, or if they have, it's been very minor testing.
Or it was 100% successful, and I mean, I doubt that we would see them push it beyond the limit. I mean, it is good to know what the actual limit is, but I don't know if they would actually push it beyond that limit. And if they did, I would imagine that would also come with like some sort of announcement, like, yeah, we passed testing on our nose cone structural test and pushed it to failure. Because if they, I feel like if they wouldn't announce something like that, it would result in a lot of speculation on whether or not the nose cone is structurally sound when they do this first launch. So, yeah. Either way, good thing that they're actually doing this. I released a video last week or a few days ago talking about why this test was important among other tests. So if you guys haven't seen that, make sure to check it out. But yeah, this is good to see that they've actually, or either have done it or they are doing it right now. Really good news to see. That's pretty much one of the last structural qualification tests that they needed to perform. So yeah, it's great signs to see that. And on that note, I mean, it's kind of obvious, I guess, but one of the best things about this site is that, we didn't know that this test was happening, which means that, they don't have to have a road closure in order to do cryo tests on the ships here. And that's really good because a lot of these tests, like, even with ship 25, the initial cryo testing of ship 25 kind of got in the way of other stuff that they wanted to do at the launch site, like, just general construction on the launch mount, the booster static fire, and also the wet dress rehearsal, all have like minor delays for when they actually occurred based on like ship 25 being at the launch, and Ship 26 was out there as well too. So both of those ships being out there needing to do cryo testing, and also this test structure right here would have been at the launch site if not for having Massey. So it's really good that they have this place now, because it's going to drastically speed up a lot of things. Like, it's going to speed up how long it takes to actually get a ship ready to fly. I mean, it's been like over a year now, close to a year now, since they started testing on 24 and Booster 7. So yeah, I'm really happy that this is here. It's really really good overall for SpaceX to have this site. And I'm just noticing something. Was this here last week, Thomas? Okay, no, sorry. The EDOM and 7.1 have been here for a while.
Yeah, it's just we haven't had a flyover in a little bit. I think we had a picture of it on the ground over there.
Yeah, I guess I'm
that's
just not
where we-
used to seeing it here.
Yeah, because they had pulled it off of the can crusher on the left side, and that's where they stuck it for now. It's their like storage area for all sorts of rings and tanks and other things that would be testing over there.
Do you think that let's look at it from this side really quick, and maybe it'll be out of view, but they have a new little concrete pad here, which is a little bit confusing, I'll admit, because I guess we don't really know exactly where the whole, are these the just two of the piles that they put in the ground? Case one.
Kind of looks like they're protecting it. They've got that little orange safety fence say "Do not go here."
So this is outside of the pad, I'm guessing then?
I think
Like,
it's just
probably
right at the edge of the pad.
right at the edge
for
of it.
So there should be basically a ship pad and a booster pad, and well, the booster pad, it would be just at the edge of it.
Okay, because what I was thinking is maybe they were, for some reason, going to move this over here and test it on that pad, but I don't know why they would need to do that.
Yeah, they've got a whole other area if they're gonna like do some crazy testing.
Yeah, like doing it right next to the ship doesn't really make a ton of sense.
The one thing that somebody also mentioned last night, well, what if it's a crane pad? And it's like, it's a little small for the crane pad, but you
Yeah.
could get a crane on it. It's just like it's the smaller cranes.
Yeah, I don't
you're
think
not going to be doing a whole lot with it.
Grover would fit there. That's for sure.
Well, Grover's just sitting right next to it. It's like, I don't fit there.
Yeah, and speaking of that, what do we got going on here?
Yeah, that is really weird. The tent, the roof is obviously missing, but they've got a ring in the inside. So if you actually go to another perspective, you can see that's more of a platform that you stick stuff on. This could be just a testing apparatus for all sorts of different things, but I think this is the ring with the 20 holes that were on the sides of it, which I just kind of realized now because I'm seeing a little bits of pieces sticking out. So that would be a test ring.
Really? That's the one that we thought was for a booster?
Well, it looked like it would be part of a booster testing system because it had the massive steel plates on the top and the bottom. It's obvious that it does not go to a booster, but it would be testing for a booster somehow.
Interesting. Yeah, crazy nobody even saw that thing move.
Well, we have to double check with that on the build site, and I'll do that actually right now. But
to see if the other one's still there.
Yeah, maybe we've got another one that's just, this one's just got a couple of holes where
Right.
it would be for the 20 outlets for the engines, but it's only got like 3 of them or something like that.
But at this point, we don't really know what it is. It's really odd the way it's in here, though, because there's no doors on this tent. So they would have to lift it out.
There's a door right in the front, right
But not
there.
not a door like this.
I don't know. It's weird, but like that front side, it's got at least some sort of door.
I feel like the front side. Are you considering this the front?
No. Where the truck is parked, you see how it's got the like the plastic or whatever that is. Maybe it's a cloth, basically entrance. I think those two pieces are the doors.
There's also a structural support right here, though. So you can't
just put a header over it, and you could you could fix that.
It looks to me like it has to be lifted out of here, or that they remove this tent once they're finished doing whatever it is they're doing. but it's still interesting either way to see this tent here with a missing roof. I mean, I guess it still stops the wind, but allows them to lift things in there. But I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, that other ring, it's still there.
So this is something different.
Yeah.
All right. Well, another mystery. So beyond that, I don't remember whether or not okay, so last time I saw 7.1, it was still on the can crusher. So that's why this looks a little different. Yeah, we have the can crusher cleared, and I don't know if we have any other real updates out here. They did dig this little ditch back here for their little, this is like a drain pit almost for cryo testing. So I'm assuming that like once they drain it, when it gets to the very bottom of the tank, they can't really push it back unless they have some pumps in here to push it back, which I'm guessing they probably do. Anything that can't be pumped back would just be drained right here. So I think that's what's going on here. It's just a little drain pit to hold all of that stuff.
I kind of suspect they're using back pressure to get a lot of that to go back into the tanks, and then whatever is left, they just dump. And I think they usually dump like the beginning part and the end part whenever they do one of these basically cryo tests or proofing tests.
Right.
It basically cleans out the whole system, and you don't want that debris.
You know, I've never seen any signs of trucks actually over here offloading.
I think we have a few times, actually. We've got one picture from the air on a drone shot where there's a truck and it was on the nitrogen side.
Okay. Well, one thing I find interesting about this site is how many vaporizers they have here, because there's not, even in the orbital tank farm, this has more vaporizers than there are in the orbital tank farm. It looks like they got 2 more of them that just showed up, which will probably go in here somewhere if I had to guess. But yeah, I mean, it looks like they're not done with development with the actual farm yet. But clearly it's operational at least. So, yeah. Any other updates from what you've seen looking through these images, Thomas?
Well, you mentioned those vaporizers. There's 4 new vaporizers total right there. So they had 4
2 right here.
No. It's actually the 4 middle ones were the originals. They put 2 new ones on the left and 2 new ones on the right, and that was as of like 2 weeks ago. Those didn't exist like that. So
didn't they have shorter ones in the front?
No, they just had 4 of them in total, and they've got now the 8. So they filled that out with the additional 4 on the outsides.
And they got this tank canisters right here.
Yeah, those were their last 2 weeks ago as well. But it's interesting to note those are high pressure gas tanks. So that cylinder, that sphere, like I suspect, could be a pressure vessel. Those would definitely be for high pressure gas. This other sphere, it's still kind of a mystery of what that particular one is. It could be a different source entirely, but it could all just be nitrogen and just going from liquid to gas. So that might be the reservoir for the liquid side.
Interesting. Oh, like reservoir for this?
Yeah, for the vaporizers.
So that they're not like pulling directly out of these ones?
Yep.
Well, that would make a lot of sense. Kind of simplifies the pipework a little bit. Cool. Well, anything else that we should cover in this area? Oh, they have been digging down here with this old foundation for the office that was down here. So it looks like they're starting to run some conduit. So I'm guessing we should expect a new building here soon.
Well, there was an existing building there that was originally to the Massey site, and it had an electrical panel sitting there. And one of the things that you don't want to do is go through and redo all the filing and everything else for doing just a little bit of electrical. So they've kept the electrical panel until recently. I don't see it there, so they must have gone through and removed part of it, or are replacing the entire system with a better electrical grid for that area.
Yeah, because this would require them to upgrade everything out here to 3-phase, since that's what's coming from Brownsville, right?
They probably want to go to the 3-phase, yeah. So there's going to be some upgrades going on there. They'll probably have to replace the lines on the poles, that kind of thing. So we should expect to see some of that.
Cool. Well, I think that just about covers everything from this area. Indy, did we have some questions or donations that we want to touch on?
We definitely have some donations. We have a donation from Jim Cabot. He donated $10 and says all aboard. We also have donations from 55 Chevy Guy, donated $10 and says, let's get this donation train rolling. Hit the like button too. And Brent Dean donated 11 Canadian dollars. He says he's on the train. Let's go. Scat 1975 donated £10 and says 1 ticket for RGV train, please. Choo choo. Cranky Old Man donated $10. All aboard, and don't forget to like. Well, you guys are you're well versed on this. Rocket Prophet donated $10 and says like, subscribe, join, donate. This is the way. You're a Mandalorian. And Sharpie donated $10. Oh, and there's more. Sharpie donated $10 and says, choo choo, keep it up, RGV gang. And then Andy Adler donated £5 and said, second class return ticket to Boca Chica, please. And those are all the donations.
Awesome.
We only got 2 questions here from Massey's. So the first question was from Andy Alder. Could some crafty Mexicans divert the Rio Grande around the old bend and steal Massey's? I don't think that would work, but it does bring up a different question. But this is probably down the road when the Rio Grande River isn't per se, it shifts, right? Erosion and stuff like that. I don't think that's an issue. Going to Andy Alder's question there. Thomas, I don't know if you can answer that.
The only thing I can think of is that when it starts eroding, people like to go through and shore things up. So it's like, oh, well, it's eroding towards us, so let's shore it up. And they kind of redivert the river a little bit back to its previous state, where it had a tendency to basically want to meander. And that's something that happens all the time. But people will come along and say, well, I don't want it to meander towards me, so I'll shore up this part of this part of the shore, really. But you will still have basically that entire area changing over time. Geological scales, you're going to see massive shifts.
All right, and we have 2 more questions. One from Sandy. The question is, I think SpaceX logistically missed the Massey's trick as secondary test site, as would not interrupt with ground zero execution. You learn every day, even with SpaceX. I don't think it's a question. I think it's just a opinion on. I don't know what you all think on that.
Well, they kind of hit on something very important, is that Massey's has a really great option of testing. Like, you only need to basically put a sheriff's car in front of the Massey's Way, and you don't need to go through and make a big show of it by closing down Highway 4 and other things like that. You just go through and do your testing, and that's it. It's mostly just cryoproofing, and you're cleaning out the tanks, all those things.
All right, and the last question here is from Geek the Steve. What is the status of 6.1 pressure tank?
Well, scroll up real quick. They did remove the flex lines. Oh, well, it's still there. It's just in the shadows. So they removed the flex line that was with a pump system that was on the front, and otherwise we haven't seen anything.
Yeah, still sitting in the same position. So.
And that was it for all the questions. We did just get 2 donations here from JK Video, $10 and the like. Thank you, JK Video. And then one last one from Detroit Mission Control, $4.99. Great job, Zach, on your latest video. And yeah, we'll drop his video. I actually got through it just on my drive to Starbase, so it was a great video. And thanks for putting that out there, Zach.
Hopefully Sonny was driving while you were watching that.
I didn't take Sonny, but I wasn't watching it, but it's one of those things where you can listen to it as well and kind of get what you all were talking about.
For sure. ton of visuals in there as well to go with it, to help you guys out if you have some questions about, especially the test tanks and just the general, I guess, history really of what happened over the last 6 to 8 months with Ship 24 and Booster 7, and all of these test tanks that are in here are included in that as well. So if you guys haven't checked that out, please do. And thanks for the compliment. I appreciate that. And also thanks to everybody who's donated. We really appreciate all of the support, and having you guys help keep Mauricio up in the air. And once again, really glad that we were able to do a flyover this week, because there's been tons of changes and we're just getting started on them. So why don't we switch over to the Sanchez site, and what do we got going on out here this week, Thomas?
Well, the obviously the Deluge system was one that we can get on a little bit later, but there's concrete.
What's going on here? Are they about to build a driveway?
Oh, there looks like they're going to build a little bit more right there. I see the form work, at least on the right-hand side, that they've started.
Yeah, it looks like a driveway entrance so that they can go straight into the...
But yeah, they've removed part of the fence line as well for that area, which was something I didn't kind of notice until just now.
Right here?
Looks like the fence just fell down right there, but the rest of it to the left, it was removed. So they're putting in that formwork and leveling and grading that soil to do some concrete here. So I do kind of suspect they're going to do a driveway or some sort of way station or who knows what. But that is neat to see that they are getting the United Rentals lot up and going.
Yeah, and on the topic of water deluge, we've had some movement with the pipes that we know were going to be used for that water deluge. These ones haven't really moved. The two manifolds that were down here, they're still down here, but these had been moved to the build site over the last week, and they were both painted, as you can see. I think that there was another piece that moved too that was painted. Was it this one?
Well, that definitely has been painted and added onto. So
yeah,
they
we
are
got
making some changes.
Let me see if I can get us a... Let's see. This is probably a good one. So yeah, we can see that these ones are basically the same, and they've got the... I don't know if these panels were over here last time. I think they were.
No, they weren't just the
here.
boxes, the frames that were there. It's just kind of this weird alignment. They're sitting there like they're trying to align them and do some other things with them.
Yeah, I'm wondering if these will end up on top of these soon. That'll be interesting to see that. I mean, it does kind of make sense to have like a huge frame holding them up, so when you put it in the ground, there's something for it to sit on top of. But I also was kind of expecting these to rest on top of like a lip on the concrete. But yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of other pipes down here that they're working on all at the same time. The interesting thing about this is just how many different sizes of piping we're seeing over here. I mean, this one right here, the Y section that we saw splits off into two directions, and on this side it gets reduced down to a much smaller pipe, which I don't think this has holes in it, does it?
No, I don't think it does. It's just the pipe itself. We're looking at a very thin pipe, and so they're diverting it off into a smaller part of the system.
Right.
Or tighter, probably. There's those basically preformed concrete trenches that all of the cryo lines and things like that run through, and they have to avoid all of that. And this is probably their method, is just they're going to be tighter with their water lines, which means that it's got to be towards the end. And you do have a reduced flow because of that.
Right, and this would be basically on the tower side, I think.
Yeah, that would probably go towards the tower.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if there'll be pipes coming up straight out of this, or if it'll be like a vertical nozzle, because we do have, some really interesting pieces. We have this one right here, which could be an underground piece, or it could, stand up straight. and I mean, just be spraying. I'm imagining like up against the tower and spraying towards the launch mount. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of different options for where that can go. There's another curved piece down here. This one is, I believe, a manifold, really small manifold, but it's more than likely part of that system as well too. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah, it is a good question to say, is some of the manifolds, do they bring it vertical? That's a question that people have been asking for a while, and it still hasn't been answered yet. Are they going to be doing water deluge up towards the top? So do you have a valve that will open up and allow it to basically do a rainbird system directly onto the top of the launch mount, that kind of stuff? That's what we would expect to see with, let's say, Falcon 9, for instance, where this is a bigger system. You'd expect to see more water everywhere.
Yeah, you know what I would like to see is a water system on the base of the tower, like spraying towards the launch mount, because especially after liftoff, it's the whole top deck is going to be like super hot. So I mean, sometimes putting water on hot surfaces like that right away is not a good thing because you can cause them to warp. But in this case, I feel like it'd probably be a good idea to cool it down quickly, especially because you don't want the heat like diffusing down through the launch mount into the inside of the launch mount. So, I imagine that spraying the top of the launch mount is probably a good idea, especially since everything is covered up now. Like you can actually do that without it damaging, equipment on the outside of the launch mount. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they end up doing that.
And or at least 2 years ago when I was modeling the launch table, it looked like it had a little bit of a slope going inwards, which just meant that water would run off it when it rains and that kind of thing. But it did kind of imply that some sort of deluge system would go on the top, aimed towards the inside of the table. But that would be turned on after the vehicle's basically just left that part of the pad, because you don't want to throw water onto the engine bells and that kind of thing.
Right.
So that one other thing to say is that pipe that you saw up above, that's that shorter kind of J right there. It was originally like in this area, then they moved it down towards the bottom of your image to the bottom left in that open area.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's back. So they keep shifting around, and that one only has like one little outlet at the end. It's the strangest thing. So it's actually just barely being covered over. So it's supposed to be part of the deluge system as well, where it would just have at least one area to release water, just this tiny little thing. But it's behind that rod that's up on top of the shelf, so you can barely see it just sticking out right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. I mean, it's good to see them moving really fast in here, because it's just like once they get all of these smaller pieces together, all they got to do is just assemble it all at the launch site. So it'll be, I don't want to say quick, but faster than it would be without doing all this pre-assembly down here. So, and also I'm glad it's happening outside because we get to actually see it before it gets rolled out. But yeah, I think they've finished up on all these plates. I haven't seen any more of these roll out from the shop. I feel like we're missing some of them though.
Yeah, we used to have 3 of the trapezoids. I only see 1 right now.
Okay,
maybe they're inside the inventory tent. They're like, just got to make some corrections.
Yeah, I wonder if we have some. Let's look at some ground images actually and see if we have any views of the inside of that tent. I actually haven't checked this week, so in the wrong direction. Let's see. Oh, I don't think we're gonna have any that show the doorway this time.
The door was closed for the new tent, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I suspect they've been told to close it, but the reason that it was always left open was it gets really hot in there. Like you don't see a lot of AC units or anything running yet.
Oh, hey, look at that. I guess we'll discuss this later. This is the drilling rig that was behind the Mega Bay, now getting packed up to leave. So we'll discuss that here in a little bit. I guess another thing to discuss at Sanchez, we finally have Booster 8's aft section was lifted off of the transport stand over here, and they just put it on another stand, which is basically the one that they typically have the aft sections on, like when they move them into the I think this is the stand that they use when they move them into the Mega Bay, or a similar one. But yeah, they just freed this one up, and they're doing lots of work on it. It looks like they've pulled out the I want to call them the hold down clamps, but it is the hold down clamps essentially. But the support, the pin essentially. So each of these blocks, they've removed a few of them, and it looks like they're going to redo the way that these actually pull out of here. So right now they are able to move these automatically, but they can't unclamp it from the booster automatically. So whatever they're doing right here now probably has something to do with automating the process of removing the clamps, because if they do that, that makes it so that as soon as they pull it up to the chopsticks, that's one less operation that they have to do. So
yeah, we've often seen them get stuck at removing it from that mount, so that there's a plate that's a top plate that is the clamp itself, and it's bolted in place. So if you don't have the ability to remove that plate because it's basically been binded into place by the booster when it's shifted while it was going down the road, you can't remove those bolts properly, and that has been kind of a showstopper several times.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, I'm just thinking about like times where it's kind of like trying to if you've ever taken like certain parts of your suspension system off of your car, and you have to like unload it first by actually lifting the car off the ground in order to unload whatever you're trying to remove, because it's really hard to remove things when they're loaded. So yeah, I can imagine that some side, like all the bolts on the opposite side, are super easy to remove, and all the ones on this one are probably hard because it's tilted over to the side to some degree while it's sitting on there, like shifted to one side. But yeah, going to be interesting to see how they do this. And it's weird because they've been slowly doing this to all of the transport stands at the same time, but they haven't like actually finished any of them. So still waiting to see what that ends up looking like.
I suspect like there will be a hydraulics team that comes through and finishes the rest of that, so they're getting it all structurally ready.
Right.
They do the final run through.
Yeah, I was expecting to see them get to work like scrapping the rest of this right away, but it still looks like all the pipes on the inside, like they haven't started to take those off yet. So it doesn't seem like they're in a rush to scrap this.
Who knows? They might go through and decide to cap things off on the lock. It'd be the LOX header tank there, and decide to do a little bit of a burst test on that or something like that. They've done that over at McGregor at one point. They took one of those header tanks and did a test of destruction out of McGregor, and I would love to see them do that with one of these. So it's a real article all held down and just cap it off and see how it holds.
That'd be really odd to do it through this, because you also have to worry about all of the engine mounts or the engine piping being capped off, which it probably is, but still, that's a lot of like pipe work that you're involving in the pressure test. But
oh yeah,
I guess it allows you to test that actual pipe work. But yeah, it would be interesting to see them do anything with this. But I personally don't think they will. But
I don't think they will either. But it would be fun to see. I like the fun.
Since we're on this image here, First Duck of Wellington asks, do we know why Booster 8 was scrapped?
Because Booster 8 is it uses the same engines as Booster 7 does, and they probably don't really have... Actually, sorry, they all use the same engines. It's the electric TVC, which I guess is able to be swapped out. So like from my understanding, if they took the engines off of Booster 7, they could switch out the hydraulic TVC not hydraulic. It is hydraulic. I'm pretty sure that they could swap them out if they wanted to. That they're interchangeable, but from my understanding, that's one of the reasons is like the engines between the two of them, and they've also made other changes on Booster 9. Jax would probably be able to answer that one a little better than I am, but yeah. Do you anything to add on that, Thomas?
You're on the right path. So the electric TVC on Booster 9 can't be added to, let's say, Booster 8 as a retrofit. It's all hydraulics. That's the only way you can go. It's a lot like Booster 7 and their twins. They only needed one. So 7 was selected to become the next champion here that will do the orbital test flight. There's always the chance that they will just skip 7 and go to 9 if they have additional delays on top of delays, and they've got, let's say, Booster 9 ready as well. That same thing happened with Booster 4 and Booster 7. They're like, okay, this is a better design. We're going to go ahead and move to this one. So that would be a possible outcome as well. But it's basically they're skipping the older version. There may have been other structural issues that we're not aware of with the design or other things that Booster 8 had issues with, but Booster 7 didn't. So it'll be kind of an interesting way to kind of gauge things as they keep moving forward. But they do like to skip some revisions. I hope that once we have the first test flight, that there will be less of that of the boosters and the starships. They'll just go through and test them and iterate and improve upon instead of throwing them away.
Cool. Any more questions on Water Deluge and Booster 8 stuff?
Yes, we have a question from Ian McBoy. Is it possible part of the water deluge will spray from the tower to the launch mount?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of we're talking about that briefly, hoping, I guess, that is an option to be able to actually spray down the top of the launch mount. So, yeah, good for a lot of reasons to have something like that. So, yeah, hopefully we will see that.
And that's all the questions for Sanchez.
Cool. I don't even know if this is tall enough to reach the top of the launch mount, though. It's probably not. No,
that's probably going to be the one that goes underground. It's probably the one that is to the left. If anything, that would be the one that goes vertical. I would suspect. No. I'm sorry. The left of that black pipe right there. That manifold system. I would suspect, if anything, that one would be the one that goes more vertical. And it would connect to pipes below and go vertically up, and that would be your Rainbird system, for instance.
Right. Cool. Well, I guess we can move on from there. The other side of Sanchez seems to be really busy as well too. So they, as of this morning, now have Ship 26 on top of the I mean, there's multiple things we call this. I guess Raptor installed platform or way station, essentially. But assuming they're going to be doing engine install more than likely here soon. Yeah, I think they lifted it early this morning. So it sat here for most of the week, and now it's finally up on that stand. And next to that, we also have this dirt pad right here being worked on. And I think they drilled some holes in here and put some caissons down, but I can't see them. So
I think they just had steel plates sitting there. They had the caisson drilling rig sitting there, and that's where you see the pieces basically being disassembled and trucked off. I don't think they actually did any construction here. They were just...
Oh, they did. We watched them lower the rebar cages in there. I just don't see the actual holes.
Oh, that's really weird.
Yeah, they spent about 2 days drilling over here, but it's tough to see where they actually are at.
Yeah, so where that tail loader's at, there was a concrete pad with some stars going off in different directions. So if it's anywhere, it would be where it's at, basically, because that pad's kind of missing.
Yeah, I've been wondering if they're going to put another tower here, because I can't really think of anything else that they would really need that kind of sturdiness for, unless they were, I don't know, putting like a booster staging pad here for some reason. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see that, because we still have all of these parts down here for the expansion of this facility that haven't been used yet. So I'm guessing whatever they're doing there has to be involving these. But we will have to wait and see on that. In the meantime, what do we have about Ship 24? We got some updates with we saw them working on the FTS this week. I don't think we have any images of that. Hold on, let me pull up some ground images of 24. That's 25.
And 24 is now what, on its third or fourth robustness revision, if you will?
What do you mean?
So they keep putting it on booster 7 and then taking it off, and putting it on booster 7 and taking it off? No?
Well, I think the booster was kind of the main thing, getting the robustness upgrades or whatever that was. With Ship 24, really, they just needed to... well, they did all of the structural stuff on it, which kind of completed before much. It was like several weeks before the actual wet dress rehearsal when they finished that stuff. So as far as like the remaining things on it, we've seen them working on the tiles, which seem to all be covered now. And then earlier this week, they were working on the FTS box, which is this one right here, right? Yeah.
No, it'd be further down. So
further
this
down.
is
yeah. Sorry.
So you'd be looking for that guy right there. So there's two panels, one on the left and the right. Those would be the panels to access where you would put the charges for the FTS, and you could basically see it would be along that same weld line, which is the common dome. So you want that area to basically be ruptured and expose everything all at once, away from everything else. So you do not want this rocket veering off into a populated area. For instance, that's what the FTS is for, is to avoid those particular issues.
And other than that, I don't think we have anything else that we're really waiting on for 24. I mean, there's a possibility they could go tighten up the painting on this, but I highly doubt that. It doesn't really seem super necessary to do that. So yeah, I mean, I think that once everything is done at the launch mount and they are actually able to put booster 7 back up there, that we'll see 24 roll out shortly after that. But until then, I think that's what we're pretty much waiting on.
I do think they will do a little bit of a paint touch-up just to say, hey, we're ready, let's do this. And that'll be the last things they do before they stack it, for instance. So it'll probably get painted over at the launch site, for instance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but other than that, I mean, the tiles are looking good. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about some of the ones up top and on the around the flaps, but minus that, it's looking pretty good. Anything else at Sanchez that we should touch on, Thomas?
Not that I'm cognitively aware of. I guess the other thing that we could probably say is the inventory tent side. They've been making some trails. So they've been accessing parts, I suspect, further in, and so it's been getting a little bit more organized. At the same time, it's just getting more of everything.
Yeah. This is a lot of... It's just funny to me that this tent is nowhere near large enough. And I mean, they're even expanding way down into here. I mean, this whole site is all storage now.
Yeah, well, you see all sorts of different things for boosters, starships. You also have stage 0 systems, essentially. So those massive valves that you can see like red spots all over the place, those are basically valves for everything from water to methane to LOX to nitrogen. They have all of it. Then I see like green pipes, for instance. Those are supposed to be going inside of buildings. I've seen some of them, though. Those go into the buildings for, let's say, fire, basically fire suppression systems.
Are you talking about these ones?
Yeah, so pipes like those could go indoors for the Mega Bay, for instance, on the top floor. there's all sorts of places where you see pipes like this in construction. So it's going to be interesting to see, where everything exactly goes, but there is a lot of stuff to try to keep track of, and good luck with that. The only people who will be is the inventory guys who are trying to move this all around and organize it to be accessible for later. That's where you can kind of see these paths form, and that's where they're trying to get at specific parts that are deeper in.
All right. Well, I think maybe we should move over to the ring yard.
And I hear if we say Jax's name 3 times, he might appear.
I don't think he's going to do it. But we've had a very busy week at the ring yard. I think a lot of us were feeling that it was slowing down a little bit as far as manufacturing goes, because they had so many rings out here and they weren't actually stacking anything. But now we have booster 10 fully stacked and booster 9 next to it in the HighBay, and they've also started stacking booster 11. So yeah, crazy week at the ring yard. I'm going to go ahead and grab a ground image showing the inside of the Mega Bay. I gotta search all the way back to the beginning here. We'll start there. Yeah, so we have booster 10 back here, still attached to the crane, but you can see that it's been fully stacked.
But that is just insane to think about. We have 3 boosters stacked so far. We've got 7, 9, and 10. That is insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost good that 8's gone because it's just too many boosters.
Yeah. 8 wasn't kind of going anywhere, at least with 7, like, taking the leads here. And there's always that chance that they're like, well, we got delayed by this amount of time for these reasons. We're going to go ahead and skip booster 7 because we've got booster 9 testing that we need to finish up, and they're going to go for that instead. That's always a possibility. I hope they don't do it. I want to see 7 fly, go to 9 after that, and continue with a fast, accelerated pace of testing.
Right. Yeah, on the opposite side, we have 11 down here, which has it's now 12 rings tall, I believe. So we had with the common dome, and then 2 of the lock sections stacked this week, which is awesome. They also have a new welding robot down in this corner. Actually, I think it's back here. Tough to see from this angle, but yeah, you can see that they've already almost completed that, or it probably is complete, that whole weld. And so they did that pretty quick, and it's not really that surprising that they're moving that fast once they actually get to that welding stage. But yeah, they're not playing around when it comes to manufacturing right now. And looking at it from the air, I think we can see a really cool view inside of there too. So I'm going to swap over to that aerial view.
See that just on the last image, you can see the turntable, the newer one in HighBay.
I will go back to that one here in just a second. Let me see if I can get us a view inside of there. You can't really see it. Maybe this one?
I can kind of see booster 11 right there, just on the right.
Yeah, and so I think it's on top of a turntable right here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that makes it really, really fast when they're welding. It's just, I wonder how many passes they do. No idea right now, but I think it's at least 2. I'm guessing on that because the rings in the, let's see here. The ring sections right here kind of look like single welds, and then when you see these ones down here, for some reason they just look larger. I don't know what it is that makes the stack, like the joining welds, look different than the actual ring welds, the regular ring welds.
So the gentleman to the right, I think he's actually doing some angle grinding on the weld itself to expose the weld to make sure that they've removed all of the excess materials to inspect the welds. Because we've seen this before in the past when they were doing that with single rings, and then every chance they basically had, they were inspecting the welds like that. I think they can still inspect the other welds, but it's just they're not doing the angle grinding like this.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting to see. So I don't think it's that it's a weld of 2 welds or so. I think it's just whatever we're seeing is like,
grind it off.
yeah, it's just the angle grinding that's basically like planishing the weld, so to speak.
Interesting. Yeah. So moving to the HighBay, we also have. Okay, we're not gonna be able to see it from that angle, but ship 28 stacking is well underway. Where is that? No, we had a good view of it. Let me oh, there we go. So we have ship 27 right here in the front, and then ship 28 is being stacked in the back. So you can see that they, and this is where things kind of got weird this week. They've actually stacked the nose cone, obviously on top of the barrel section, and then they lifted that and stacked it on top of the common dome, or sorry, the forward dome, which is very interesting because usually they stack the entire tank section of the Starship first, and then put the nose section on last. And so they're basically going from the top down now, which is very interesting change of process, I would say.
Well, it reduces the amount of time that you have to take to go through and do all the re-rigging and everything else. You just basically bring in another ring section, stick it underneath, and then do another weld. So that's a really fast manufacturing process that I do like.
Yeah, I mean I mean the last big change that we saw was with the boosters, how they stack the boosters, which is, essentially hanging a ring section below the stack and like double stacking them. And so this is, I think, the first large change we've seen in just stacking process for the ships in a while. I could be wrong about that, but it's the most recent change, or I mean, I really don't remember seeing any big changes in Starship stacking process in the last 6 months. So
There was a question on the welding from Ian McBoy regarding the booster welding. Do the robots also weld the inside of the rings too, or just the outside?
just the outside.
You'd have to do either a manual process or the welding. It will be going through, which would be really hot, and I don't think they want it that hot.
Yeah, that is a good question, though. I mean, I don't see how they would do it from the inside unless they were manually doing it. And I don't know if they actually go through that process.
Well, we've seen them with on the inside. They have scaffolding still.
Right.
So that does imply that they're doing some manual processes with welding on the inside. But at the very minimum, you still have to go through and do like the cleaning the top surfaces of each weld beforehand. So you basically go through and get it all basically fit and proper before you do the welds. But that's the only thing that like you can kind of see on the top of this one. There's this like kind of left of that line. You can see where they've removed a little bit of material before they go through and weld that top piece.
Right.
But yeah, that would have to be a manual process there because there are all of those alignment. I guess you could call them not pins, but yeah, the alignment pieces.
Guide pins.
Yeah, the guides.
Cool. And we are at the top of the hour. So if you guys could do us a favor, if you haven't already, hit that like button for us. Kind of helps us out with the algorithm, and maybe get some new people in here that haven't seen the show before. So thank you all for your support. If you've already done that, I know I forgot to do so I just did that myself. But yeah, and I believe we probably have some donations that we need to touch on really quick. So I guess let's just do that because I think we skipped that when we were at Sanchez site.
So no donations as of yet.
Okay, cool.
But we have questions. Oh no, Mauricio asked the question. Never mind.
Well, before we move on to I guess the big ring yard news of the day, it looks like they've in the last flyover there was 4 of these platforms out here, and now there's only 1. So it looks like the at least 3 of them have been moved indoors now, and are probably actually mounted in there, which only makes sense. So I'm guessing this last one will be getting lifted in there soon because they kind of need this space. And we should expect another large crane to show up soon as well too, because we have our new foundation for the Mega Bay. So I guess we should ask in the chat, because Indy's been wondering about this. What do we call this? Because, from our understanding, officially, these are HighBay 1. Oops. Sorry. Officially, we have HighBay 1 and HighBay 2. But, we also regularly refer to this one as the Mega Bay.
Oh, it has it in writing on the ground too. So it's officially both HighBay 2 and Mega Bay.
Okay.
And we've heard Elon refer to it as Mega Bay as well.
Yeah. Well, he has his own naming system that, like, there's there's the original naming, like they put on paperwork for the county or whatever, and that'll be like HighBay 2, and then it goes to that, from that to Mega Bay. So they'll refer to it as Mega Bay on official paperwork in the future as well. Like, that's the direction they'll go. So Elon gets the naming rights on everything.
And, it's going to get confusing. I think HighBay 3 makes the most sense.
Does it say HighBay 2 on the green boards that we've seen, the bulletin boards that we've seen?
I don't think they've added it on there yet. But, oh, you mean the original HighBay or Mega Bay?
I was just wondering if Mega Bay was on there, and if it was on there, if it's listed as Mega Bay or HighBay 2.
Not sure.
Where's Lolo when you need him?
Check in on that. Yeah. But yeah, this is interesting. So, we were kind of confused on what this would actually look like, but a few weeks ago, my initial thought was that they were going in circles around this. So, initially they were missing all of these interior row. They only had the outer 2 for this ring around there. And so, yeah, it looked like they were just going around in circles and doing 4 rows of piles, I guess you can call them, caissons. And yeah, it looks like they've finished that. And on this side, they've poured the just a little base, and they still got to do about 3/4 of it. But we can see that, yeah, this is definitely going to be another Mega Bay. This is very similar. In ways, it's kind of a cross between the first 2, between this one and the one in Florida. It doesn't have a huge base like the one in Florida. The one in Florida has, I want to say, like a 5 to 6 foot deep base, and this is very, very shallow. And instead of having like that huge floating block on the bottom, they actually have these piles in the ground, which they did not do on this building. So
this is just the start of the base, though. Like, the one thing we were looking at last night, if you look at the, let's say, the direction from the south, from the aerial views, you can actually see that there is quite a bit of slope to everything, and you can even kind of see with the shadows, like, how deep they're going. So this is just the start of the base. They're going to add additional structure to the entire thing, and then the entire thing will be itself a large concrete block. But this is just like the start of that, where they're getting it started, and they don't need to go through and dig down deep and do all sorts of weird stuff, but it's basically that bottom level. So they're going to pour a lot more concrete on top of this.
So I guess if that's the case, I would expect to see formwork go up around this at some point.
Yeah, so there's that, like that's the start of the formwork right now. You can see those little pieces, or that's the formwork that they just pulled off from the from what they just poured.
I think so, yeah, because they have it down here right now that they're setting up. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, this is going to be really awesome, just seeing this structure once it's complete, like having another Mega Bay out here. Man, I'm really excited for that. And initially we thought that there may be a chance that the doors are actually on the side this time, but I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure it's still just a single door in the front right here. The reason they have this little driveway right here is just so they can get in the middle of this. And I think they're going to probably have to keep that here until they bring in a crane on the inside. I'm pretty positive they're going to need a crane on the inside of the structure for a while. Either that, or once they finish the second layer of this, they'll be able to roll across it to get their crane in. But this is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a tight job as far as like where they're able to actually construct the wall panels, because I mean, you're really limited in space out here right now. They got to keep at least this path open right here to get to the Mega Bay, and really all they have for construction of those panels is this little square right here, essentially. And they still need a place for that crane to move as well too once they do it. So I have a feeling this one is going to go up significantly slower than this one did, because just the simple fact that they don't have space.
Well, this is basically their third version of it. The HighBay was the earliest version. So the first off the door, I think, will just be like the rest of them. The plans on what we saw with the ones down in Roberts Road in Florida, same idea of just one door. Why have more doors everywhere? You're trying to reduce the amount of wind going through these buildings to begin with, so just one door should be fine. And then you can also see, yeah, as you mentioned, the area that they have right there. They fenced it in, and yeah, you're circling around where they're going to put the elevators. So those would be
about this fenced in area.
Yeah, that it's all fenced in, so that makes perfect sense that this is their construction area, and it also explains why they're finally going through and putting up these platforms that they're not quite needing yet. They're just needing to get the room available for building the panels, these L-shaped panels that they'll put together and move into place.
Yeah, I mean, it also makes sense now, like that this road over here is not as much for ships to move as it is for them to deliver stuff here, because they're going to need like a good egress in and out of here when they're delivering all of this structural steel, which I believe we may see start to show up here within the next week or so. I'm surprised that they don't actually. You know what? If we go back to the Sanchez site, I think that a great place to deliver steel is right in here. So they could just offload everything in here and then carry it over as needed. I mean, that creates an extra job to actually get it over there, but actually this is a better view to see that from. Oh, hold on.
It's right there at the top.
No, I was just looking on the stream. It looks like it's not full screen anymore. It's kind of weird looking.
Yeah, no, I'm aware. Yeah.
Is that through OBS?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just need to, yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I'll go back to the other.
But yeah, they've got a straight path directly from that little spot you're mentioning to where they would need to build all the wall panels and everything else there. Because they have such limited room. One other thing to mention as far as that road, you can see that they've coned off an area. There used to be shelving there, which had all sorts of booster parts. That's all gone now. They've got a little coned off road just to say this is how you access this part of the site. You can see that basically just at the top left corner of this new foundation where they have the road, because the road basically would have been where the foundation is. But that was originally a paper road on the county map that SpaceX owned all the parcels around it, and then the county did an abandonment process and sold it off to SpaceX.
Interesting. Wait, is this? Oh, we got rebar down here for that base right there.
Yeah, so they're getting ready to lay down rebar everywhere. And after that, you'll start to see the actual forms popping up. These are probably, 4.5, almost 5 feet deep as far as that foundation of this new mega bay.
Wait, say that again.
The foundation itself.
Right.
So what we looked at as far as how far up the rebar goes, this looks to be like a 4.5 foot to maybe 5 foot foundation as far as the thickness.
Right. And then they have the just like the one in Florida, the elevator shafts are like essentially underground.
Yeah, you do that pretty much with every elevator shaft. You always have to go a little bit deeper. The elevators themselves don't quite stop, and this will be very useful for foundation work as well as just having a regular elevator. I'm not sure if they're going to use the same practice of using these construction elevators for this location as well, but it looks like they have at least a spot for 2 of them.
All right. Well, let's pause for 1 second. We're gonna give Indy a chance to mess with this aspect ratio really quick and see if we can alter that.
It'll take less than 5 minutes, and everybody watching, you'll just buffer, and that's all you'll do, and then we'll pick right back up. So it'll be a quick, less than a minute, and then we'll be good.
Cool.
All right. Now I'm on the spot and nervous. You can keep talking. I'm not there yet. I just need it. I wasn't prepped.
Oh.
Okay, now I'm prepped. All right. All right. Everybody will be right back in like less than 2 seconds.
And here's something really important that we're about to talk about.
Not funny, Thomas. It'll pick up. They will stop buffering, and we should be good to go.
All right. Well, we'll give it a second really quick to
20
see.
seconds. You'll have to give it because that's the delay.
All right. Well, everybody in the chat, I guess, let us know if you can hear us. And in the meantime, Thomas, one thing I've kind of noticed over the last few days is that they've been bringing a lot of these culverts in here for the drainage.
Yeah, they need to get it kind of out of the way.
Right. Yeah, like extend it back here so that they can actually put concrete down and move around this structure.
It kind of looks like they might be going in the upward direction as well a little bit, because they will need to have a road just up above your mouse and above the top left of HighBay there, or that's new Mega Bay. So are we good on audio still, and everything else?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, the road will have to continue through in order for them to access the new Star Factory that they've been working on forever, and they've been building like crazy. So that's going to be part of this process. Is they're going to have to basically cover up that culvert at the bottom and the top a little bit in order to have full access to all sides of this building and Star Factory and everything else. But yeah, it's really cool to see all of the changes that you're going to see popping up everywhere for just the construction and production of starships and boosters and everything else here. This is quite necessary now that they've got like mid-bay, which they kind of use occasionally. It's more for storage. They're using HighBay quite a bit. Then Mega Bay, and then it's Mega Bay 2 or whatever you want to call it. It's quite necessary. They were looking at 2 Mega Bays just for Roberts Road, so I'm glad that we're getting 2 here as well.
Yeah, I think that just speaking about like how much space they have, once they get that drainage set up down there, it should be relatively easy for them to, like I was saying, put the concrete here and here, and then they could have a pretty good route to go all the way around the whole thing. So that'll be interesting. And it looks like they're forming up this corner down here and running some new conduit as well too. And I think this is going from where the oops. Okay, we're gonna have to get to another view. Maybe this will show it. Yeah. So I believe this is where it enters the for the Mega Bay. I think it comes off into here that way. And yeah, it looks like they extended off of that to come down to here. I think there's a path that goes down here to the rocket garden. Sorry. And so it looks like they're getting prepared to just run that over to this building as well too. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be a lot of work to get all of this foundation ready. And yeah, from this angle, actually, Thomas, you can see that dip a lot better. It's definitely a good 3 to 5 feet or something like that. So,
and we also have some good ground shots that show the rebar and people inside of there, and it's
cool.
like, you can see that it's like at their shoulder and neck height. So that's a good way to, judge it, unless these are really short people and we're all just imagining how big the whole thing should be. But it should be about 4.5 to 5 feet.
Yeah, that's a great image.
Or more, actually. But yeah, he's standing basically right on the concrete there, that sub base of the concrete. So it's going to go a little bit or a lot higher than that. This is just probably a few inches thick. And this is the first slab that they're going to put all the concrete on. You don't want your concrete to slump or anything because of soil shifting. And that would cause some other issues later on as it's setting.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch once this is done. So I noticed that they have some of them that are lower than the other ones. Any idea what that's about?
I'm not familiar with that part of it, but I do see that they are, at least these parts of the rebar, they do have a cap that's already on it, which means that these should be closer to the foundation floor, and then whatever else will go above it a little bit more. Maybe these should be the final columns, but I think that would be my best guess of why those are basically shorter. So that would be like an inch away from the bottom of the floor of the building.
So with the Star Factory at not Star Factory, the Mega Bay at in Florida, they actually had these massive embeds that they put down, similar to what they use for the Rocket Garden ones. Let me see if I can actually find some of them in here. I believe that we saw some get delivered at one point. But that's something that we should expect to see, is those huge embeds being delivered. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe they're not here yet. Well, never mind that. I was going to try and grab an image of one and see if we can.
Do you want to spend just a minute looking for it, and I'll do this one more time and fix it? Because I see what the little problem is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Gents and ladies watching, recording.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. I was able to find the image I was looking for, so hopefully this will show properly. Cool. So yeah, these are what the embeds look like. And as you can see, they are pretty massive. And this image is from Greg Scott. So give Greg Scott a follow on Twitter if you haven't. And sorry, I'm just fixing my little aspect ratio there. And so you can see they're very tall. You can see a pickup truck down here. They're taller than that. And so this structure is a little bit deeper, I think, than maybe it is going to be exactly like this. I mean, and you can see down here that they have that base layer of concrete. And yeah, you have that base layer of concrete down here. The piles sticking up out of the actual base. And then obviously the two, what do you want to call it? Elevator cores, the elevator shafts. And it doesn't look right here you can see 3 of the embeds in there already. This is obviously a super old image, but this is basically what we're going to expect to see them do on the new one.
Can you go back to the ground shot in a moment? Because I'm wondering if those embeds are actually the ones that go with the shorter pieces right here before they put it all together. Because that would explain it a little bit better.
Wait, say that again?
So those embed pieces that we were looking at before would go with those. So they kind of match together. And now you have a system that is essentially connected to each other by the concrete and anything else that was holding it together.
Yeah, I mean, these ones look like they are... let me go back over to that. they look like that they wouldn't actually tie in to those, that they're actually just placed in there.
Yeah, they'd sit on the basically that concrete floor that you saw,
Right.
and that's the coolest part. If you go back to the Gray Scott's wider shot here, the Mega Bay that you see over here, you can see that foundation is already started. They've already done that sub foundation that was just to start the rest of the concrete pouring and everything else. Yeah, so they've already done that all the way from there, and I think the rest of it's there as well. It's just there's so much rebar in there. You're thinking it's not there, but it is.
Yeah.
Wow, that is going to be so dense.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that once they reach that next step. I think it'll probably be about 2 weeks before it reaches that point. 2 or 3 weeks. Let's see here. Sorry, let me get back to that view. So yeah, really excited for that one. And what else do we got going on at the ring yard? Let's see.
We've got tiles being delivered right there. That's another one. So they're pulling them out, and this kind of indicates that we're going to see a mass ramp up of tiled starships here soon. We haven't had a lot of tiled starships because of 26 and 27. 28 and all the rest are, I believe, supposed to be tiled, if I remember correctly. But this is looking to be very much a stocking of all the tile pieces. So that's good news.
I feel like
progress.
they need a building just to store those. I mean, they produce custom ones in here, right?
Yeah, so that's where they've been building the curved pieces and the custom ones that just don't quite fit right, and they usually glue those down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised they don't have a building just for storing these, but I guess it's not fully necessary. And it's also interesting that they're here because, well, I guess most of the tiling does happen in this building. All of the custom tiles actually go probably into tent 3 for the nose cone. So yeah, this is interesting to see them ramping up as far as tile delivery goes. But yeah, what else do we have out here? I think on the mid-bay side, we kind of covered most of that stuff.
So you can, that was the picture that I was wanting you to show right where your
this
mouse
one?
is at. Yeah, so you can see the basically the turntable right there, just above your mouse, just in the shadows. Yeah, you can kind of see it in this one too, but it's still hard to see these in the shadows. But yeah, that's a really cool way to understand like where their stations are actually going to be at. Those are bolted down; they're not going anywhere. It's going to take a large effort to change your stations out. So if you do change your manufacturing process, that's what you'd have to do is unbolt everything, re-level it, which is going to be it's always a nightmare. You have to make sure everything's leveled down to the thousandth of an inch or even better than that for some of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's basically so that your ring welding stays accurate when you do that. Your stacking welds.
And then you've got stacking tolerances that are added on top of that. If you could imagine if it was just slightly off by, 0.002 of an inch or something, you'd have a kind of a vehicle that starts leaning one direction because the welds are all kind of lopsided.
So my thing that I'm thinking about here is that with the new stacking method of going top down for the ships, that almost eliminates a need for the mid-bay.
Mid-bay is still useful for a lot of things, but they could do a welding station for like the actual rings there as well. Going through doing pins, they could do all sorts of things. So mid-bay, it's still useful. It's just trying to find the right fit for it in the production process.
I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of it once this Mega Bay over here is complete.
Why not get a third Mega Bay at that point?
Right? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's no real reason not to. Essentially, I mean, you can throw another one right. I don't. It would be a little difficult, and it would look really weird too because it would be. I guess if they redid their entrance so that their entrance is over here instead, and then they could actually put that other building right here. But yeah, that would be very odd.
They'll probably just butt it up against Star Factory, so it'll come more this way towards us, towards the bottom.
That would drive my OCD crazy.
But it would be very efficient use of space to bring the buildings and butt them up next to each other like that.
Right.
And then here's the thing: is you do actually need like more than 3 megabays. If you're going to do Starship every 3 days, that's the goal for Elon for getting us to Mars. We're going to have a lot of these. And Florida would probably be similar. They're going to have more than just 2 megabays. But that would be the 1 every 3 days approach.
Yeah. The exciting thing about this megabay is that we should be able to see a lot of the action in there because there'll be a good view from the street with it actually facing towards the highway. So
unless this is the one that gets doors.
Oh, man, that would suck. Yeah. Well, cool. Let's move on to the ground fabrication area, I guess. Unless we had some questions over there, Mauricio.
Yes, there was a question from Ian McBoy. The manufacturing site is expanding well beyond 5 launches a year. So how long before OLM and Tower 2 are built? Thoughts on that? Maybe it's this, but yeah.
Man, I mean, that's a good question. To build another launch tower, they would have to start doing ground preparations like 6 to 9 months before they actually start building the tower and launch mount. So, I mean, we're at least like a year and a half to 2 years away from that, I would say.
It would start like from start to finish would be at least 18 months if you're really pushing that schedule strongly, and so we're looking at like 2025.
Yeah, unfortunately,
because we've not really even started. The biggest part of that is getting that Army Corps of Engineers approval. Once that has happened, a lot of the other elements will fit into place. And actually, I think the paperwork is basically in suspension. They just are requesting additional information from SpaceX. So once SpaceX knows what they exactly are doing, because they have changed their minds on a few things here, at that point we will see those changes occur on how they are going to do the next integration tower, launch table, the full setup, and we'll do it right this time from the beginning because we've already had experience with 2 other launch tables, at least, if not 3.
We had two more questions here. One from Crane Man. Maybe the red LTR 1220 is still there for building the new crane for HighBay 2. And
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions. The other question from Brent Dean. What's up with the coffer dam thingy behind the Star Factory? And I think we're getting to that area there. So,
yeah, we don't know.
Sure, we got theories. Some theories better than others.
What are yours?
Well, one of the things that we're looking at is, this entire system they're putting in place, it keeps water and soil out. So I would expect them to be digging down, probably inside of that area that would be like a pit. So one of the coolest ideas is, what if we're getting a boring tunnel? Because that would be the best option right now. It's the more fanciful one, but it's like, it's about the right size so far that you could basically start digging in there, putting a TBM in, and going at it.
I have a stickler. Not a stickler. I have something to ruin your fun, unfortunately. The boring machine that they bought is too small. They have to get a bigger machine for it to work the way it's meant to work. So the tunnel that they've already drilled, it's a little too small. That's why they have to use Teslas, and why the traffic only goes, one way each way. It's the machine that they bought is a little too small. So they need to buy a bigger machine before they can employ what you're talking about.
Well, they're actually building their own TBM that's fully electric. That's part of what the Boring Company has been gearing towards, is a completely revamped version that goes faster and is, I think, maybe the same size or just slightly bigger tunnels. But the boring tunnels themselves, I would probably expect them to keep using Teslas. That seems to be a model that could work and is working, at least for Vegas. But I have heard that there has been traffic and I suspect it's probably just the amount of people getting in and
It's
out.
not, it's the
popular.
pressure. So because the tunnel is too small, it's creating too much pressure and the pressure is not able to escape. That's causing everything to slow down. And then too many cars. But essentially, if they're all Teslas, they can monitor the speed, and in theory, there wouldn't be any traffic, but it has to do with the pressure. And you can check me on that.
I'm trying to understand that the pressure part. Are you talking about for
Within the tunnel.
usage, or
When you're in the tunnel,
pressure of usage,
Yeah,
or the
but-
pressure of the structure?
I'm assuming usage, it's the pressure when you're trying to go forward. It's going to be pushing back. There's not enough for it to disperse around the cars and things like that and go out. It's all because the boring tunnel doesn't have any air conditioning vents or anything like that. There's nowhere for that pressure to go. So it causes everything to slow down.
Interesting.
Oh, we're talking about wind pressure.
Well, this would be odd to see that happen here, just because, I mean, it looks like that they've formed this out for a road to come in here. So I guess it would have to slope down like pretty much immediately. But yeah, I mean, it would be an interesting theory. Do you have any other theories?
Yeah, so a more plausible theory would
Whatever.
be. Well, no, like that's the funnest theory, and I like that one the most. But the more plausible one is we're looking at basically again a pit, but it's for a manufacturing process. I'm not sure what it would be, but it kind of reminds me of what they did with Tesla. So they had like casting and all those systems that they were basically pitted. So they did basically the same sort of style with digging down and basically getting the entire area ready for doing casting processes. They use some similar styles there. The one other thing, like it's too far inland to be something with water. We're not expecting a canal, because that was one other idea that had come up last night. We were looking at this going, what the heck is this?
Well, I mean, if it came all the way through down here, then it would be better than this dock as far as having a place for their hovercraft to go to.
That looks a lot more expensive than what you have over at the like the integration site, where it's pretty much you already have a pad, you have a direction you can go. That one works. This is just odd. Like, if you're going to do this, why not just do it over at Sanchez? It's a lot closer. You don't have to go through and use up your land. And the one other thing to look at that says production that goes that direction is they've been going through and removing concrete in this area as if they're expecting to see a larger building. The one part of that's like, this is the craziest idea. Like, we're going to see Star Factory, instead of going the direction that would be going up towards the east, that would be the east direction. It could be that we're going here to the north, so going left. That has one little caveat that hampers it, is there's that little parcel of green land right there. As far as I've been able to find, that does not have anything as far as SpaceX owning that new parcel.
This one?
Yeah. So unless there's a lease agreement, which that one would throw a huge wrench in that works, because the county records will be showing like who owns the property, but lease agreements, those aren't directly reflected in county records, at least that I can find.
So, Mr. Plausible Idea, I have people in the chat saying that I'm right. It is about the diameter of the tunnel. Just letting you know.
Well, the plausible idea was not about
He was saying
the
mine was
stuff
not.
on the inside of the tunnel. It's just about whether or not there will be a tunnel.
What?
Yeah, so there was a
was the one-
rumor, but there was a rumor going back, probably like SN8, SN9 days, that was saying we want a tunnel here to go from like Brownsville Airport to Starbase to South Padre Island. That was like the rumor or the idea, and it's something that it's still plausible could happen, but you know, this is like the first even close sign that it could happen. But we would need to see a lot more happen before we could say, yeah, verified. This is not even close.
Yeah, and so this is only, I'm guessing these are the sheets right here. It's tough to tell. They're only, some of them are longer than others, but they look like they're about 20 feet long? Maybe?
Zoom out a little bit. I think so. A little bit more than 20 feet, so it looks like about
30.
30. Yeah. Because I'm trying to find like a shipping container to just gauge that off of, because those are 40 feet. That's not a shipping container. That's a mobile office. So yeah, there's a shipping container to the right. So that's actually closer to 40 feet.
Aren't mobile offices also shipping containers formally?
Not this one.
No, that's
Some of them?
like you can get shipping containers that are mobile offices. Those are cool. But I'm looking at this mobile office, which is like a mobile house essentially, or mobile office with wheels and everything else. That it's not just a former shipping container.
Cool. Well, let's move over to this area really quick. We have, as of this morning, and I don't know which ship this is. I'm going to guess here and say it's 28. 1 second. I need a better view of this. So 28, ship 28, has actually had its payloads, or sorry, 29 has had its payload section lifted in here, and it could be not 29. It may be a later one. I'm not sure, but I think this is 29. So this morning they had the payload section actually get moved out here, and then they lowered in the Pez dispenser. So yeah, making progress on that as well too. Moving super fast on starships and boosters right now. Yeah, I mean, at this point, just thinking about Star Factory again, I would not expect to see Star Factory renovations, or as far as the rest of this, until the second Mega Bay is nearing completion.
So I've got some bad news. And some good news. It's not 29. It's 31. So the good news is it's a higher number.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. They're moving quick. And before we keep going on this, Andy, did you want to touch on some donations?
Sure, we have lots of donations and very generous folks. Starting from the top, we have a donation from Michael E. Dennis for $19.99, who says, As I rap on my head with knuckles, knock on wood, I haven't seen a methane pump replacement in some time. Any speculation on how or what the fix was? Thanks, you guys are the greatest. Love the breakdowns and info. So we can come back to that question. Jim Cavett donated $5 and says, here's $5 for driving lessons for Sunny. I think we need flying lessons for Sunny. $19.99 from John Malkin. Fly high and fly safe. Keep up the great work, and I love all the details. James L., $10, wrote Cam donation. We need a computer donation for Mr. Mauricio. Gary McD, $10. Was there some mention of it being for cargo loading? Not exactly sure what he was referencing. And then Michael E. Dennis again donated $9.99 and says, Fuel and Sunny Biscuits. Choo choo. Then we have another donation from Jim Cavett, $5. Great picks this week. Thanks, Mauricio. Well, it says at RGV Aerial Photography, but he is Mauricio. And then the last donation so far is Cash Writer, $1.99. Loving the live comms, thoughts on RGV flyovers. Thank you all so much for your donations. We appreciate it.
Well, I can probably answer that first question real quick, the knock on wood about the methane pumps. So we heard a company had come in to basically do that particular task of making sure that they were not replacing them as often. And one other thing we saw at the same time was we saw the additional electric vehicles come in that are basically electric generators. So they basically fixed their power issue and potentially some other issues with the methane pumps or the system that was basically driving them or being provided the cryogen. So the cryogens could basically be doing some other problems. But anyways, they seem to have fixed it so far. So that company and maybe the power issue was the culprits. And now we have a good, reliable source of power. So no more breaking of motors.
Cool. And was that the last question we had?
Yeah, we don't have any questions. On my end, I don't have any questions.
All right. Well, I guess I'll move forward with the ground fab building. We do have 2 new grid fins that got brought in. which I think are back here. I thought they had all 4 of them, but maybe they only have these 2 that are back here. And I think those are for booster 11, guessing. But yeah, I think they had 2 up front over here, but I think they may be the ones that are back there because I don't see any in this area. Other than that, this area is super boring. They don't do any. It's not the dome yard anymore. It's really the downcomer yard. If anything, they have tons of just downcomer parts laying around, transfer tubes for the methane downcomer, or the methane downcomer for the booster. And other than that, there's not really much happening out here.
Dave
Well,
says, go ahead.
isn't that a newer puck down there at the bottom
This
right?
one?
Yeah, new booster Center 13 engine puck. I think we saw that coming in a couple of weeks ago. It was in Michigan, and now it's here.
And I think that one was for booster. I don't know. I want to say 15, but I'm not sure. Yeah, another booster thrust puck. So, anything else in this area, Thomas?
New fence going in. That's kind of neat. So they're getting things all done there. Yeah,
along the base
so
down here.
Yeah, that one just kind of pops out as, oh yeah, and then they got to go through and paint it black.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got a lot of their property fenced in now. It looks like I think all of this is new as well too.
Yeah, and that's a private property parcel, and it's kind of locked in. That kind of happens when you're building around stuff. Some of these parcels have issues with like ownership because it's owned by a family, and so you have to have like all the members agree on it, that kind of thing. So it does take a while sometimes to get the purchase of a parcel like that, or they just want like $12 million or something crazy for a little parcel that it's like, no, that's a $10,000 parcel that it's going up to 20 to 40 because of SpaceX being here, but they want a lot more. That's something that happens around here as well.
And according to Dave, it looks like Kevin Randolph posted some images earlier in the week, and those grid fins are actually for booster 11 and 12. So don't know which one is which, but yeah, they're for 2 different boosters. So cool. We also have some ground images that I probably should show. Actually, I don't think we were able to see much into that area this time, other than this interesting looking stand back there.
I wonder if that's for domes, because it does have the kind of alignment system in place, but it's a little too sharp of an angle.
Yeah, it's tough to see this one, especially with that fence there. Now we can't really see inside the building.
Yeah, it could just be for rings as well. So as you're lowering a ring down in place, it will shift it towards the inside. If I'm looking at that right.
Yeah, I think they're double-sided right here. So yeah, it would make sense for it to be a nose cone, I guess. But tough to tell on that one. I don't know if I've seen any other ones like that. But yeah, anyways, let's keep moving on. I'm just gonna walk through the ring yard right here and make sure we didn't miss anything that we should probably mention. Let's see here. I think this crane is the one they were mentioning that is probably sitting around waiting to construct the larger crane when it arrives. I'm guessing it'll be another LR 11,000. Probably. I'm actually wondering if they'll send the one from Florida down to here. It'd be cool to see if they've started packing that up.
Well, the crane that's currently at Sanchez, I would suspect, would be a perfect option for building that new mega bay.
It's not tall enough, and I don't think they have any extensions for it out here, last I saw, but I don't think it's big enough to do that.
As it currently is built, put together, yes, but it would be tall enough for mega bay, because the entire crane would actually be able to do, when we were originally looking at it and wondering what it's for, it would be able to do the let's say, parts for the integration tower. So you could put all the paneling up there with that particular crane, for instance, and it was able to lift, like, what was it, 770 metric tons. So it does have quite a capacity as well.
From what I've been told, just off of people who know some of the Buckner workers, that this crane is not supposed to move from this location. But if anything, I would expect it to do like the secondary work.
So it'll make the panels that the crane puts together at.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
Yeah. So I guess continuing on, let's move over to the northern side, or the village area, and then we'll go to the launch site.
Sounds like a plan. I feel like we need like champion music because we're getting closer to the launch site.
So let's start at the bottom left real quick. So they've been going through and installing a lot of wire or the conduit, and basically doing the main powers, that 3-phase power, to all of Starbase. So we're missing some spools here. There should be at least 3 more on the right from images I looked at previously. Yeah, so they're missing. They've been used up somewhere, and we have seen them being used. So that's good to kind of note.
They're actually laying these somewhere?
Yeah, they're finally putting them in. We saw that on Jessica's stream. I think it was over towards Sanchez. There was some of that was occurring. So they've got all these manholes with conduit that you go through for the 3-phase power, and it's just appearing to go everywhere now.
Well, and
let's see.
Miss Jessica's in the stream, in the chat as well.
Actually, I'm noticing another 4 are missing, so there's at least 7 that are missing now. So that's good progress.
Well, hello to Jessica. Thanks for joining us. Happy to see you in the chat. Was that down in this area?
No, I think it was over towards the Remedios side, if I remember correctly. Like one shot that had so many different things to kind of.
Is it right here?
So no, well, actually, let's see here. This would be at the corner. Yeah, so it'd be in this area. They were running all that wire there. You could see it there. So they had the utility truck, right at that spot. And in the background, you could see the auger at that time. And I think it was either about to be disassembled. So she was just across the street up to the top part there. Anyways, it was a really cool view to see what was going on.
Wow, that image makes it look like the ships are toppling over, like they're mid-leaning. They all look like SN8.
Well, it's a little bit windier than in Chicago, apparently.
Oh, it's pretty windy here today, that's for sure. Let me go back to that other image.
Are you referring to the hot air? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I guess that's good to see that they're finally laying those lines down. They got a lot of work to do, that's for sure. So keep an eye on that. And moving,
sorry, to the right, there's another bit. They've got a new leach field in place. It looks like they're doing leach fields for every 3 houses, and because this is more of a company town, they are basically having 3 houses, 1 leach field, so they don't have to go through and basically do all the additional permitting because it's all basically owned by SpaceX. So they are connected together that way. And man, these houses are coming up fast. So these are workers' homes. But it is cool to see this happening.
Do we know for sure that they're workers' homes? And before anyone pings me in the chat, Dave already corrected me. I meant SN9, Eileen. Sorry. These are for sure workers' homes?
Well, yeah, that's SpaceX property.
Non-worker, that's for sure. Yeah, they don't. No non-SpaceX employees are moving into this area. That's for sure.
Yeah, so there might be a couple of houses that are reserved, almost like hotels, you could say, for VIPs.
Yeah, I was going to say if they have bigwigs and board of director type of people that come.
But it would be that would be like reserving a couple of these houses. It wouldn't be all of them.
Yeah, it's company housing. I get it. Same with those Airstreams. Airstreams.
Yeah, the same thing there as well. It's all for SpaceX workers, and So I think the housing, it's something you go through, apply for. It's kind of neat that they're going through and making basically this company town. So from what I saw, it was like basically if you're no longer with SpaceX, you have basically about a month before you need to move out. That's part of those stipulations for a lot of these company towns like that as well.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Because if you're not working for the company, there's really nothing for you in Boca Chica.
Yeah. Unless you can find another position, depending
Paving
on
the
like
road.
why. Yeah, depending on why we're leaving too. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with an area just east of Austin as well. That Elon's making a little company town over there in Bastrop. It's a larger community than this, it seems.
What is this building that looks like it's like a
Yeah.
mirrored building?
Well, we have
That right there, foundations.
two more houses. Yeah, two more foundations being dug right here, or not dug, but yeah, being
Trenched?
formed right here.
Formed?
So we got basically two more partner houses like we have up here. I think these are about the same size as well too, maybe slightly larger. It looks like.
I was actually referring to that structure that's catty-corner to where you were pointing.
This
Just up
Yes.
there.
restrooms.
No, this should be like the septic system. Like you can see, there's a water tank that's black. So it's all of those utilities coming in like that.
Is it at an incline? Is it on an
There is,
incline?
yeah, there is a walkway around it, and it is raised up. That's part of making sure you don't get flooded.
And those are
So you
not
can see
cars or some sort of vehicle?
there's two cars in there. There's a green car and a black car.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
The rest of those are just basically like trailers. They've got porches that wrap around it. They're really nice places in it. I would love to see a way of going up on top because you can see that there is a platform with a railing on top. It's like, that's really cool. You got a deck and then you got a deck on top. It's just, how do you get up there? I don't see a ladder or a staircase yet, but it's coming probably. And so you got a little...
It's not the staircase they took off of the OLM, did they? That they'll put here now?
they'll chop it up, use it as a staircase. That would be kind of interesting.
Maybe it was
But no,
meant
I
for this
haven't-
all the time because it didn't go all the way up to the platform like the other one does.
Yeah, I haven't seen where that platform that staircase has gone, actually. Zach, you thought that it ended up just to the...
Yeah, I was going to
down
touch on
right
that
here.
here in a second once we drop down to that area, because I think they moved it near the integration building. But I guess just the last thing I was going to say about this is just that they have those three more areas to still add houses, and then that's pretty much all I was going to say about that. But yeah, moving down to this area, they I thought that the stairs had moved into here, but I don't see them.
Earlier, you had pointed out where there were a set of stairs and it had decreased. There were more stairs and they were gone. Could those be the stairs being returned to that area that you saw in the pictures?
Not sure which
Earlier.
area.
Sanchez, I think. We don't have to go back. I can find you the photo while you continue on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've taken them apart, so they're still fully assembled. We just don't know
Oh, okay.
where they went. I thought they went down in this area, but I do not see them. Let's see. Let me actually check through the ground images as well too, just to see if we have some images of back there this week. And I think we do, but I don't see it back there. So
While you do that, I'll give a shout out to Mr. Luke Tattersall, who just donated 10 pounds and says, "Love all your production, RGV and company. Thanks so much for all your work. Was visiting Starbase a week ago, all the way from the UK. Incredible place and worth the trip. You are a lucky, lucky person. I still haven't even been to Starbase yet, but I hope to in April or May."
And when you get there, the one thing that shifts is your perspective of time and space. Like you can't look at all the different locations at once. You got limited internet, so that's not going to happen. And then the space part, like your perception of how big things are, because we look at so many images that are zoomed in, you will never kind of get that correct sense until you are there and you get the full sense of scale. of like how big you are compared to everything else, and the distance and depth wise, that is another part. So when I was looking at Starship, I was like, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was, but it's still huge. But once you've acclimatized to that, you change your perspectives of time and space.
I would think too, like, you wouldn't be able to see like you can with the cameras. Like the whole visibility changes too, right? Because now you're eye level with everything.
Oh yeah, you don't get this normal, let's say, overhead view.
Right.
And I just love how they've got these cranes parked right there at the bottom. That is so cool. Missing that one other one at the top. It just needs to be parked, and they all need to line up, and that'd be cool. But anyways, it's really useful to see how they have this area set up. They actually have one SPMT set up with counterweights already. Good question that's going on there is, are they planning to use that for additional moving of starships or other components around here soon? So, fingers crossed on Ship 24 in the next couple of weeks or days that happens.
Yeah. Well, I say we probably are good to move over to the launch site.
Woohoo! Launch site!
Let's do it. All right. Well, we will start out at the suborbital site, where it looks like not a lot is happening. They've still been throwing some dirt down over here with the little extension area. So they've got a pile of road base that they're slowly laying down over here. So I'm wondering if this may actually end up being like a just a temporary place for them to move all of their equipment during the launch. Although I think a lot of it is easily stored in the tank farm or near the tank farm, but I think this is probably also a really good area behind the tower to just store equipment during launches. So I'm kind of wondering if that's like a equipment parking lot that they're going to have going on here, but tough to say for now. But what we have seen is that they've kind of started to move these culverts around. So these were all back here originally, and they've kind of started to move them around. There's some down below this in the bottom right corner, which we'll touch on here in a minute. But yeah, other than that, I wouldn't say there's a ton of stuff happening at the suborbital site. We still got this berm, the berm being constructed, which we have some good ground images of that this week. So let me grab some of those for us.
And once again, poor Mauricio has been looking for a flyover for days and actually finagled one the same day, yesterday, to get us these photos, which I think is just marvelous. Thank you, Mauricio.
Yeah, the weather has been terrible this week. How many attempts have you done for flights this week so far?
Over the last 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I guess last 2 weeks, but this week at least.
I think last week was we did one attempt. It might have been two.
Two, yeah.
The thing is, it's not about the attempts. It's more of it's me wanting to do a flyover, but either the aircraft's not available or the weather's not cooperating. So since we went back to the 172, it's been really difficult to schedule. So good news is we already scheduled for next week, Thursday and Friday for flyover, and the following week as well. So that way we can lock in those dates and nobody, takes those days from us. But this week we did two attempts, but the winds were too strong. We couldn't. It was just going to be impossible. 47 mile an hour gust wasn't gonna allow us to do any. It wasn't gonna allow us to do the flight. So, but we got lucky yesterday. So
yeah, didn't the clouds just clear up right before, or they came in right after you were done? Like you literally caught the window at the very tail end or the very beginning.
I wasn't really worried about the clouds because since it was windy. Those clouds were going to be out of the way anyways.
Good point.
I wasn't worried about what was there, so I was mainly worried about the wind situation, and it wasn't an issue. The winds died down later on during the day, so that's why we did a 5:30 p.m. flyover versus a 12 p.m. The lighting wasn't the best, as you can tell in the shadows, but a flyover is better than no flyover, right?
Yes.
But you got some beautiful shots.
And we always like you after you have a flyover because Because if it's been too long, sometimes you're not a very happy camper. Just kidding.
Cool. Well, showing this from the ground, we can see that they are getting close to finishing this berm. It looks like they're about halfway done. They have some formwork up top. It looks like they're gonna. I don't know if it looks like if they're just forming that so that they can. If they're actually going to pour the top first, or if that formwork is just to give them a backing for the vertical or the slope stuff that goes here. But
I think it would be for that first part, the slope, because they're obviously adding additional areas for workers to work at the slope and get that all ready. And that's going to be the hard part. And then once you get the slope done, then you can do the top, and that's easy.
Right.
So those forms that are coming out against the wall, those are there to catch anything that falls?
Mostly people while they're working up there. So they don't fall down the slope.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's basically just scaffolding so they can be up there working. But yeah, you can see it from this area for this angle right here. So yeah, I'm guessing they'll have this part done sometime next week. Looks like they're getting pretty close to laying down the rebar and whatnot, but relatively unimportant when as it relates to like the first launch. So shouldn't really affect any of that. It's just like some finishing work that they got going on over here. But yeah, let's. What? Go ahead.
I was going to say, is this what leads out to those 2 shipping containers with all the pipes in it? But no, it doesn't. It's on the other side, I believe.
Which ones?
You know the 2 shipping containers with those big pipes that come out of it that has the the telecom building that Dave talks about?
Way over there.
Yeah, it's not here. That's why. I was like, never mind.
Cool. Well, on that note, I guess we'll move over to the tank farm. So over at the tank farm, we have some more finishing work going on back here with still covering all of these pipes back here. So I'm going to get us a view of the other side, actually. And there's some good ground images to go with this as well, too. So it looks like they've finished up these a few weeks ago. The top was already done, and they got these corners. Everything that's not black is done, essentially. So anything that may change in the future. So you can tell that they're still planning to put those other kettle boilers here, which is why they're leaving this the way it is. And they've also started going around here on the locks tubing. Oh, okay.
You're looking at the raceway. Oh, you're looking at
I know they have some extra piping coming over here, which I was thinking could be related to the fire system over here. So that's one thing we should also touch on is they've got a new fire system out here, and you can kind of see it right there. And it actually is on the backside as well in the same spot. And these are very
shot of that as well.
Yeah, these are very similar to what's on the actual landing pad. Where did it go?
It's not that one sprinkler, right?
It's right here. So there's a sprinkler on the landing pad right here. I think there was actually 4 of them. So the pad was pretty much right here, and there was one on each side. And so, matter of fact, I think one of them was right underneath where this is right now. I could be wrong about that.
It's just at the edge of the black shipping container at the bottom.
This one?
No. The shipping container.
This one.
It's the bottom one.
This one.
Yeah, so the edge, you can see the edge of the pad. That's where it was at.
Oh, like right here.
Yeah, and it barely hit the bottom of the skirt of the ship.
Now that we're kind of looking at this, and we're talking about the same thing, one of the theories that we have currently, it's kind of still off the same idea of water, but this would be water as a pump system for that fire extinguishing system. That's what they're putting here. They're using methane to basically fuel the generators that are the water pumps to do this. So the water comes in one direction, it's pressurized, basically for back pressure and basically pressurizing the tanks, and there's some head pressure there too. But then it really surges through the system on the outside, going the other way. So that would be a theory that's currently, it does hold water, that they do need that. They do need a pump system to make that work, and they've added all these extra fire extinguishers everywhere. So this would make sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for a good angle that shows it. I may need a. Let's. This one's close. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's another one that showed it from the other angle, but yeah, these are our fire suppression systems.
So I personally don't think that these are connected to those pipes because these are black iron pipes, and the other ones are stainless steel. So I think these are two different systems. And for the other system, they've also been bringing in new pipe all week long. So they're still laying pipe work down for that. So I think this is something completely separate. And truthfully, this should be able to run off water pressure alone from the tanks. Hold on, let's see if I can find it again from this side. Yeah, you can see that it's over here pointing towards the kettle boilers essentially. And I believe this morning they actually tested this on both sides. So they tested just spraying down the tank farm. It's interesting. I mean, I'm wondering what kind of fires something like this is truly fighting. So if we look at it again from the aerial view, where they're pointing to. So this one right here, I guess, has access to everything in this area. But I mean, I can't imagine what kind of fires they'd be fighting because really all of your stuff that should burn is inside of here. I mean, I guess, if you have your actual the insulation on top of these is burning, it's really one of the only things left that should burn like that, I guess. Unless you have an electrical fire in here, but I don't think that water is going to necessarily solve that. But yeah, it's interesting to see that they've got those two systems set up and running already. I just don't see where they connect. That's the problem. You can't really see. I don't know if this is a pipe under back there, but see, look here. We got another new pipe that's being. All of this stuff is new. They've had a crane back here working. It's not back there right now, but they're lifting a bunch of pipes in here. You can see one laying down there. So something's happening back here. We just don't know what it is yet. I think there's multiple operations going on. And there we can see that water pipe. It's actually, it doesn't go that way. It only comes. Oh man, it's really tough to tell. It almost just looks like it's going from one straight to the other, and you can't really see it tee off anywhere.
It has to, obviously. You've
Yeah.
got two outputs. You got to get one input somewhere.
Yeah. If not for that, this berm back here, we'd probably be able to see where it's connected a little better. But yeah, I mean, that's good. That's good to just see that they have that kind of stuff in place. I mean, again, not sure how much it's going to do, similar to how the one on the landing pad that they had. I mean, when SN10 did its crash landing, they tried spraying it from the outside and didn't really do anything.
That was so funny.
Yeah, so I just don't know what all that would be able to do. Well, I mean, here's the other thing. You could possibly have flying material enter here too, flying material that's burning that you might want to spray. And so, yeah, I mean, it is good to just have that in general.
Probably a requirement too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good possibility that it's a requirement.
And Dave is saying that the old fire system is fed from the Three Amigos and their pumps.
This system for the landing pad?
No, that was not even the Three Amigos. That was Hoppy. Hoppy was feeding that. There was a whole pump system. Yeah, those four locations. Yeah, the old location at the landing pad. When you were talking about the landing pad, yeah.
Yeah,
there was a Hoppy, and there was a shipping container that had a pump system directly feeding into that.
So that was before. That was during those suborbital flights. I think that's how they were feeding it. But they actually switched it over so that it was running from this water tank. They dug a ditch down through here and ran the water line to connect right here. And I think that was actually present for SN15. Before SN15, they were feeding it from Starhopper. But that was the weird thing for this being like a pump station, is that it would be a circular because it's actually coming from here to there. I'd have to dig up some old images where you could see the ditch where they ran that line. It was back when the berm was where's the berm? When the berm was still in this location. That was when they had the ditch running through there, and they were also had a water line on the berm itself that was like watering the plants on the berm to keep it from eroding. Was also coming from these water tanks as well.
Isn't one of those water tanks not functional or is leaking?
Yeah, this one is not functional as far as we know.
And they have 2 water tanks over there. One of them non-functional, one of them functional. Or do they have 3?
3 water tanks. These are the ones they're using, and this one is not functional.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Well, I guess let's move on to the orbital launch pad. Got a lot of fun happening there this week.
And he got venting.
Yeah, I think this is just from the just regular venting from the tank farm.
Oh, just everyday
I think
stuff?
it's from the nitrogen, from the oxygen side. So, yeah, we have a lot of stuff happening with the orbital launch mount. We're waiting on a lot of this shielding work to get completed. So that's what they've been doing this week. Well, actually, for several weeks now, they've been doing this. And I'm really excited to see like where they are with it because, a lot of people initially thought that they were just going to put the stuff around the outside and that would be it. But no, it's a lot more than that. So they have finished putting the last of these panels on the outside. But one of the big things, and this is something I'm working on with Ryan Hansen Space to like show exactly how it looks. But they've got plates on top of the launch mount as well too. So it's really tough to see, but they've put a layer on top of the launch mount. So it's essentially, we're considering it like a burn layer. So if basically there's like an air gap in between this and the actual top deck of the launch mount, which makes it so that it's not directly, like the flames are not directly contacting the top of the launch mount. So on the inside of the launch mount, there's a lot of stuff that's like mounted to the ceiling. And I mean, I would expect it probably wouldn't be glowing red, but it would get pretty hot during that actual launch. You have several seconds where the edges are being touched by those outer 20 engines. And so, yeah, I mean, having something that you can actually replace is really awesome. And so putting these plates on top of here is a big step. They're actually doing it on the inside as well, which you can't see. But yeah, they've completely shielded the top and inside and outside. The only thing that's not done right now is the bottom, which will be coming next. So we have some really good shots from the ground that show that pretty well. But before we do that,
so the scaffolding is currently coming off of the OLM right now as we speak as well. And do we know what happened to the plates that we saw go over the top? We thought they were going to be on the top, but I don't think they ended up being on the top.
That's what I was describing. They covered the entire top.
I didn't think that they went on the top, though. I thought they were going somewhere else.
No, they covered the top.
You could see at like the 1 o'clock or about noon to 1 o'clock position, you can see all these little dots.
Yeah, no, I see them. That's your perforated metal or covers.
It's probably actually weld points that we're seeing. So we're seeing the where the 2 layers are being welded together of the plate. So Zach, you were saying that last night that there's like a top plate and a bottom plate, and that must be how they are connecting together. So think of the octagonal pieces that we had at Sanchez. Now I'm wondering, wait, could these be the octagonal?
I was just thinking that same thing, but I don't.
They're not.
I don't think so.
They're not quite the right shape.
No, because when they were lifting them up, they weren't. We saw them; they were flat plates. So that thought literally just occurred to me as you said the same thing. But yeah, I don't think that's what that is.
I think they're the same style.
Yeah,
how they built these. They probably built these at the inventory tent.
Yeah, it's a series of pieces. I mean, they once we finish this render, we'll be able to show what it looks like. But they're not only protecting the top with this, but there's an overhang that makes it so that you actually if you were looking straight down on it, you wouldn't be able to see the clamps anymore. So they've actually got a semi overhang covering the clamps. And this was a lot of work because there was a lot of cameras on top of here that needed protecting as well too. So they had to build this in a way where they could still use the cameras and also protect the surface at the same time. So that they had to get semi-creative with that, but that's what the air gap in between the top and these plates is for. But yeah, they have scaffolding on the inside as well too, because they're doing a very similar thing to the inside face of here. It was actually done several weeks ago, but I think they're adding even more in now. So that's why the scaffolding is on the inside of here. And they're also obviously using that to weld the inner edges of these. So looking at it from the ground, we can see some interesting things as well too. So we know that they have the vents all on the side of the table, and over the last few days, they've been adding in all of these little beams in here. You can see one right there. There's one right here.
Are they beams or are they catch trays?
They're beams. Yeah, they're like square beams. So basically, it's just they may not even be square. They could be the same as what these are, but they just go across, and they are pretty much all over. Where it's, let's see, there's another one right here. So I don't know if they're going to go in between each of these gaps. I mean, they could just be adding them, all of the ones that are the same size, and then go down to the next size. But yeah, they're starting to add these in here, and that can only mean that we will soon see shielding. Let's see if we can get a better angle. We should see shielding for the cryotubes. Like, that's what that next step is. So, I mean, it's really tough to see it in there, but you can definitely tell that they've added this. This is the weld line right here, and it's both in front of the it's in front of the pipework, and it's behind the other shield. So yeah, we should see them actually lift, I think, panels in here soon. But in order to do that, they're gonna have to take the scaffolding down. So they're not gonna be able to put plates up while the scaffolding is here. So if they are taking scaffolding down right now, then that's, in my opinion, the most likely reason. So I don't think that these are actual supports for these brackets. Like, I don't, if they needed that kind of lateral support in between them, I would assume that they would have done that before the outer covers were put on, because it would have been easier. So yeah, I mean, they're finally adding what seems to be a place to mount more panels onto. So I would say, in my opinion, that we're probably like 3/4 of the way done with launch mount shielding. Obviously, they still need to do this staircase. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not just as simple as lifting these up here. There was a ton of welding that had to get done. It seems like they're done with all of that stuff, though. All of the welding, the inner and outer panels, I guess you call them joining plates or something like that, to seal those gaps.
So Zach, hold on for a moment. Do you think you could change your screen resolution or frame rate going through Discord here? Because it's getting some pixelation on the other side. So if you can hold on to the images while we're going through these.
Yeah, let me see here. I'm at 1080 and 30 frames per second, so I don't know if I can go higher than that.
He's going to want you to go to 15.
Yeah, if you can go lower, that would actually help it.
Cool. Let me drop down to 15 frames per second.
All right.
Thank
you. Thank you, sir.
There are some angles where we can see this stuff a little bit better, though.
And the double vents are because of the staircase, correct? See how it has the double vents right there?
Yeah, we don't have a vent for the staircase.
Yeah, sorry? I think they need one for each. I haven't counted them yet, but I think they possibly have 20 of them. And I have some theories about why, but I'm not ready to share those. So yeah, they everywhere where they're not able to put them. So like right here, they're not able to put one. They doubled it up somewhere else. But yeah, we can see that even on this side, they've added those brackets in here, right there and right there. And then obviously there's the one on the front right here, which is tough to see because they got some stuff over it.
Oh, wow. I
But
thought that was a person. Interesting.
yeah, there's going to be definitely a panel over this for sure. But I'm expecting to see something on the bottom that allows them to, because obviously you have a place to attach it up top, but you're still going to need a place down low. And I don't know how they're going to do this. It's going to be difficult because once you put the plate up there, I'm not sure how you're going to get in there to actually weld it. So it'll be interesting to see.
Wouldn't that be what the BART is for and the staircase if they put it back up on the leg? But essentially BART could take him to that position, no?
I mean, it's if they're covering up all the stuff, you're getting inside of here, so you'd have to like crawl in there. I don't know how they would do that. It's gonna be interesting to see them do this because number one, it's underneath here, so like you can't use a crane really from above unless you do like one of those side lift rigs where they what do you call those, Thomas?
Jib crane?
Essentially, but it's the counterweighted jig that they can use in order to like lift things through the side of the building.
Yeah, it would be like a cantilever. Cantilever, yeah.
Cantilever
so
lift. Thanks, Dave.
So either that or from below, like lifting them up from below. I can't really imagine how they're going to do that because it's pretty high up there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they get those panels up there and then again how they attach them. So
there's a quick question. Rice Comley's asking, do you guys think they're going to paint the OLM now or when they're done?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to make this birthday cake look really pretty.
But it'll be gunmetal gray, right? More than likely.
Yeah, and black.
I think the whole thing may end up being the same color that they put on the legs, but because that's...
Well, the QD system is black. They'll keep it that way, most likely.
Yeah, for sure.
And the legs have that ablative paint, so they turn pink.
I think these are different kind of steel, so I don't know if it would do that. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see once they start painting it. But I think we're a long way from that. They won't start painting before they take the scaffolding down, I don't think so.
That one leg looks so sad without those stairs now.
Yeah, and that was they had the stairway up here and they removed that. And we're not really 100% certain on it, but let's look at it from the other side. Oh, that's not the angle I wanted. Maybe I don't know where that picture is that shows that side. Let's see. Huh, that's weird. Opposite set of stairs.
It's funny, Joe's remembering your bun cake, Thomas. Your description.
Yep.
Oh, here we go, right here.
I keep using that analogy. That's why.
So yeah, they did have it mounted in here, and I was unsure if maybe the whole reason they put that here was just so they could properly space the shield out, but I doubt that was the reason. But yeah, they took it back out, which is odd. It's just weird to see them remove it. I mean, I have a feeling that maybe they didn't want to go through the process of fully installing the diverters if they feel like they're getting closer to launching. But I mean, it was a question in itself, like where it was going, because they've closed this in on this side, so there was really nowhere for it to go unless this is like just for accessing the maintenance platform. So yeah, very interesting. But the other thing to cover this week is that they have finally poured concrete in this section of the launch mount legs, which I feel is very interesting. It's interesting to me that they performed that wet dress rehearsal without having that done, just because that was a lot of mass on top of these legs. And so essentially you have the entire slanted part of the legs was filled to the top with concrete, but this part of it was not. So this is like the weakest part of the structure, and it's like just a cylinder essentially. So yeah, it was interesting that they hadn't done that before. I was always wondering if they were going to, and last week they added these valves onto the side, these ports. They had valves on the on top of this, which basically allowed them to fill these up and then cap it off. So yeah, now these are finally filled. I don't know if this had anything to do with why they needed the booster off. That's mostly just because they needed the scaffolding in the center. But I don't know if it was necessary to like unload this before they poured that concrete, but I don't think so.
Well,
Very interesting that they just did that, though.
One other part that you can recognize is that the wet dress rehearsal, it was about 5,000 metric tons, where they're looking at 7,500 metric tons for launch, but it's going to be less than that. So you're going to have most of the exhaust go through the center of the orbital launch mount, but then it's going to hit the launch mount as it's going up. So you're going to have a large amount of pressure on the launch mount in dynamic ways. So I'm glad they did finally pour concrete into these extensions.
Yeah, but it almost seems like they forgot and remembered as an afterthought. It's such an odd thing. And isn't that what those little nozzles are? Those new ones in the legs?
Yeah, they're like basically the plugs.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah, so it's good that they got that done. I mean, it's just another like finalizing thing. And yeah, I mean, it's that I think they did that on Monday and Tuesday. So yeah, now the next thing I think we should expect is somehow this scaffolding to drop lower so that they can be able to access this once they add those other panels on. But from the air, we haven't seen those panels yet, so that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty exciting that they're getting near to being completed on that. But I do think that if they, and that's not to say, we're not 100% sure that they will do it, but you know, those extra beams in there kind of give it away that that's what's going to happen. And if they do, I personally think that will take longer than the other panels because on these ones they were able to like walk inside a launch mount. It's like pretty easy to do all that stuff, but this is going to be a lot tighter spacing on everything. So I'm almost expecting this to take longer than the top part did. So yeah.
Well, it really depends on how they set up the structure and how many weld lines they have and everything else. It's going to be very interesting. So if they have the everything basically put together, all the major segments. So you had like the top piece, for instance, where it was two pieces. Well, if they already have that done for the bottom, they were just pre-formed, and then you stuck it in place, welded it in place. You could go faster. But
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting because I mean, if they're unable to use scaffolding because of the height, I mean, I'm imagining they would have to go from the bottom up with the scaffolding, which would make it a pretty large scaffolding tower. And on that note, on the landing pad right now, let me go to the aerial view. On the landing pad area, they have a ton of scaffolding sitting down here. And I don't think there was as much scaffolding last week. So we do know that they've taken off the scaffolding from the top of the chopsticks. So this is the first time we've seen them without scaffolding in a long time. Behold.
It looks so naked.
Right?
I like how you said behold.
Yeah, they're looking pretty nice like this. So some of this could have been what's on the ground over there could have been what they took off of the chopsticks, but I think more than likely we may actually see it get put around the bottom here soon. But we will see if that ends up happening. But I guess we'll move on to water deluge. So starting closest to the launch mount, we can see this little box that's gotten put down here, which has cutouts for two pipes to be mounted next to each other, I think.
And they're two different size pipes,
two different sizes. So we will more than likely see one of them let's get a better angle of this. We'll more than likely see one of them come in this direction and probably just service these two positions. And then the other one, the larger one, will probably go to the other 4 positions, if I had to guess. But yeah, that they've got, you can kind of see where they're going to lay next to each other, one right here and the other right here. And they've gotten the conduit work done right down here. These are actually sticking up out of the ground. So these are probably where the valves will sit for the big manifold that's at the Sanchez site. And then, of course, we have these giant pipes.
Of 2 different sizes.
Yeah, these are yeah. So I think we'll see. Oh wow! So then these will actually be both laying side by side right here. Then
Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun.
And it's interesting is that they both have that 90-degree elbow for both those pipes, and one of them is on the other side, so they're going to have to turn it around a bit to make them the same. But the question is, are they going to go underground right at that spot? So they're going to basically hang over the lip of that other side, and then do they go underground from there? That's kind of what I'm looking at, but there's also the 90-degree bend that you have to take as well. So we're looking at maybe 2 different 90s. And then there's this weird little elbow piece as well. Not an elbow, it's just like a deformed piece of macaroni that's next to the elbow. If you want to zoom in on that real quick, it's just another element that says it should go off to the right.
Wait, say that again?
So that there's the elbow piece up at the top of your screen there.
He wants you to get to the macaroni-looking one.
This one?
Yeah, that one. That one looks a little interesting. So it goes with that smaller pipe, obviously. The diameters are the same, but it's a very odd piece. So they kind of have to re-divert the direction it's going to a bit. So it's coming in and they kind of give it a bit of a jog.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because there'll be like a straight one attached to this one. Because they'll both potentially be laying side by side, both making that same turn, right? Well, I guess on that note, we would probably expect to see a similar like sweet piece like this on the other side, but I don't see it here yet.
Well, it should be. It actually, with that one probably on the right, will go on the left-hand side of that smaller diameter long pipe that we were looking at here of the 2. And that will probably be towards the OLM side, I'm thinking. Because it needs to basically change directions when it goes over that little holder that you had shown earlier with the two notches. So that's the one over at the far right.
So Dave,
yeah, that one.
Dave is saying that those 2 pipes, according per LC 39A, the 2 pipes were pre-launch and post-launch feeds.
There's also a comment from Crane Man that says yellow forklift is preparing crane mats for the crane that lifts the Deluge.
And so post and pre-launch is above and below the table.
Yeah, we've kind of been thinking that they're going to have, we kind of talked about that at the beginning of the episode, that we would expect potentially a vertical one that is spraying above. So that would kind of fit with what we were saying at the beginning of the episode. But yeah, that's going to be really exciting. I mean, they've been making a ton of progress on this. I'm actually wondering if, and I don't know if they could fit, if they're actually going to lay these pipes inside of the culverts. I don't know if they'll fit, but these, I have seen this little bracket right here, which will allow both of them to sit side by side. And I don't know, I think that's too wide for these culverts, so they probably won't go inside of there.
Remind me what those black pipes are? Are those black pole-looking things?
These are canisters.
Even the black
They're
ones?
tanks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So think of high gas pressure nitrogen in the white tanks, and those black pieces, those are also tanks. So they're capped on each end. And then you just got a little line of pressure going in for each one, and then those will be the maximum amount of back pressure for the water tanks that you have for your water hammer tanks.
I see you doing math, mister. I'm not working.
He's counting again. What was it? 38.
I'm not counting. No, I wasn't. Yeah, so that's really exciting. I mean, we're definitely seeing a lot of progress on that. It doesn't look like they're trying to do this before the launch, but that is one of those things that these are probably going to at least get laid into position before the launch, because they're not going to just leave them sitting right there. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, they're making tons and tons of progress on that right now. Let's see. Do we have any more ground images that we should cover showing around that area? Let's see.
Yeah, I think he took 271 ground images this time. And then over almost 150 flyover pictures. I think there were 151.
I thought it was 130.
Maybe it's 130, you're right.
So that's what I was worrying about earlier. I was trying to find the extra pictures which weren't existent.
I think there was one that showed the side of it a little better. Here we go. Yeah, I can't see much from the ground other than those random pipes sitting over there. Let's see if I move a little bit more to this side. Okay, that's not helping. Going the opposite direction. All right, yeah, I'm not seeing the one that I was looking for, so we'll move on from that. But Thomas, was there anything else from the ground images that you noticed that we should probably touch on?
Not particularly. That was at the launch site.
Was it somewhere else?
Oh, there's a couple other little minor things at other sites, but nothing huge.
Yeah, well, we got some time. We should answer some questions, and then we can go through anything that we missed in the ground images. So, do we have any launch site questions, Mauricio?
Yes, we have one from Forge Gamer. Do you think they're going to add a pad C, and if so, what do you think it will be used for?
Well, I think pad C would be perfect for static fires. So you have your pad B, which is being used to static fires, pad A, which has mostly been for puck shucking. So you're making sure your pucks are proper when you go through and change designs on your pucks.
Are you making sure your pucks shuck correctly?
Yeah. Yep. So you don't want to shuck the puck, but you want to confirm that it's that it works. Yeah,
Got it.
Exactly. So yeah, they should probably have test NC as an additional static fire station for starships. So one thing that I would expect to see is a large, rapid cadence and growth of the number of starships being built per day. Like they'll have the end goal is like one every 3 days, but one every month is another goal that Elon is set. So we should see at least this upcoming flights this year. We would have 5, then it would go up to another 7 eventually, and then we would have that basically dozen for this integration tower and launch table, then another dozen for the other integration tower and launch table. So that would be 2 per month. So we're kind of headed that direction slowly but surely, and it's going to be interesting to see, how we get there.
And don't call me Shirley.
Love that movie.
Right? Where's Stumpy when you need him?
City Slickers was a
Not
classic.
City Slickers. Is it City Slickers? It's who's on first. It's the Oppid and is it Oppid and Costello or the? Anyways.
Well, it's also on that one too. But
There's a couple more questions regarding, I guess, the staircase that was removed. Crane Man did mention that perhaps is it because they want to install the deluge pipes first? Is that a possibility?
What was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
Well, so install the deluge pipes before they install the new staircase. So it would take up some area that you'd have to dig under. And you have to remove the concrete possibly in that spot on one or both sides. So yeah, that could affect it. But those panels at the bottom that are currently still on the launch table leg, those would probably be going anyways as well. But that would be the one you have to get rid of mostly. That's the bigger problem. But a lot of the water deluge legs, I will add this, they are segmented. So they basically come in on a pipe and it's not like a ring that we have at 39A. It's just these little segments that come in from different angles so that they can get in between other pipes.
All right, the next question's towards Zach. Do you think stage 2 will survive max Q?
No. No, I don't. I'm not going to go too much
What's
into that. I mean, I just,
what's the lack of confidence there, Zach?
I just don't. I mean, if you watch the video that I released a few days ago, I feel like you can kind of get the vibe where I feel like it's going to go. But I should say that's not like me, like, just I'm not trying to like be like negative or anything like that. It's just like based on what I've seen, I don't think I don't think it'll survive Max Q. But yeah, I mean that's just my opinion.
Is this
I would
specific
love for it to.
Is this specific to the fact they've got another couple of tests they're doing with the nose cone in that direction that they need to go through and test them and verify them in max Q regimes? Is that what you're
Exactly
where you're going?
Yeah. And one thing is that with the repairs that they've done to the actual payload section, like there's no way to structurally verify that without building exactly what they like an identical version of Ship 24's payload section and testing that. So there's no way to verify it that the repairs worked. So yeah, I'm not confident in S24 surviving max Q, but it doesn't really matter because as long as it gets off the pad, like that's a win either way. Everything that happens after that is bonus.
If a 3D rocket can make it through max Q, you never know what Starship can do. 3D printed rocket, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if you can relate the two of them. It's completely different ball game, I would say.
But it's still about the strength of the metal, right?
It's about the fact that strength was removed and then having to like fix what was taken away. So it's kind of different. It's a repair job instead of being designed that way. You know what I mean? Like it's a reaction to something that happened instead of
forethought and planning.
Yeah,
I got you.
Well, to me, it seems that they've overbuilt it. So they went through, they had structural issues that they identified, and then they went back and then overbuilt the structural issues to basically patch over the problem. And so instead of it being like 4 millimeters and some stringers, you've got like 12 millimeters and some stringers. And it's like, okay, that's a lot more than you would normally have had in that region. So they have extra strength there, plus the door itself that was the original. So they've got quite a bit around the edges of where that is to help with the loading issue that they probably identified in their structural analysis.
Right. And yeah, and I mean, there's max Q doesn't necessarily imply that they will, no matter what they do, they'll always experience the same force during max Q. Like they could easily just throttle down and drastically reduce the amount of drag forces that they're experiencing as they go through max Q. So yeah, there's ways of, even if they thought that it was going to fail, so right now Elon, as far as what he said, aspirationally they want to not throttle down during max Q, but I think that kind of implies that for now they're going to have to. So it's, even if it's not where they want it, it doesn't mean that they can't succeed with the current design.
Isn't it?
Well, I think there's already been some compromises in that. Is they're going like 90% thrust for liftoff, so there would also be probably compromises in max Q as well.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch, that's for sure. Any other questions?
Let's see. We have another question here. A question from Lane Faison. Update on the Raptor chill. That was a question.
I can't do that without showing a bunch of images, but there'll be an episode on that one.
So stay tuned for CSI Starbase.
And we gotta
All
wait for them to remove all the scaffolding as well too. So
And more RGV photos to show us.
So
All
one
right,
other thing that people are mentioning yesterday while you're on this image, if we have no other questions, that left side where they've got the wall, Dave was saying it looks like they're extending that that wall some more.
yeah, it looks
Again.
like it'll be a good, probably all the way down here. Matter of fact, from this side.
So they're
can't-
literally building a compound, aren't they?
I feel like it's been a compound for a while.
Well, maybe I'm just slow.
Yeah, I mean, you can see them digging down right here, just a little bit, and I can't see whether or not they're going to go along here, but it makes sense that you would want drainage going all the way down to here.
Yeah, the biggest issue is that silt fence line. That is the max they can go, and it's just too tight for the normal circumstances. And they've got some pipe work actually running underneath that dirt as well. So they'd have to be very careful about how they manage and mitigate water, let's say, from coming off the launch table. Otherwise, it goes into the mud flats, and that's not something they want to do either. But I mean, there's going to be water going everywhere at liftoff. So that's kind of the general census, is that this would be to collect water.
Agreed.
There's one more question I'd like to touch base on. Is people are asking when is the orbital flight? Since they put out a date out there, but what do y'all think is more realistic?
Oh,
It keeps getting delayed, but probably at this rate, you delay it some more, and you get it'll fly the same day as SN15.
Wait, what?
So May 5th,
Oh, I see.
5/5.
Yeah, I'm thinking that somewhere around there, May 15th ish.
You're going even further. You're going long. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, that's just because I want to see them finish what they've started. Everything other than water deluge, I feel like is good to have. They're, like I said, 75% ish done on the shielding, so getting that last 25% is probably good.
well, the way that the speed they're going with some of this water deluge, by the time we get to the first orbital test flight, it might just be there already because it's taking so long on these other systems and licensing and everything else that's holding things back. It's just kind of funny.
I'll get to two more questions just real quick from Captain Fish. Since they removed the scaffolding and walkway on the chopsticks, does that mean they may actually be thinking of using them for the catching soon of the booster?
I wouldn't draw that conclusion. I would just say that they don't want the scaffolding flying everywhere when during liftoff.
I think it was SN5 that had some scaffolding issues on the table. That, and I think some plates of steel got ripped up, but it was bad.
Well,
it went everywhere.
Didn't the chopsticks also take out scaffolding on the OLIT?
Yeah.
And then the last question, what are the closures for next week for? Do you all have any idea on that?
Movement.
We do not. Yeah, there's some 12-hour. Are they 12 or 10-hour closures?
8 to 8. 12 hours.
Yeah, no idea. Yeah, I mean, we could see a number of things, but I guess it really depends on what's happening with the orbital launch mount then. But yeah, I mean, I think somebody said there was scaffolding coming down today, so you never know.
And they may not even hold those actual closures. It says possible closure.
Yeah, SpaceX says they think that they're going to do something a certain day, so they will put in a possible closure, and then they'll blanket the area, and then it turns out, oh, we weren't ready for another week on this, so that's kind of something that happens as well.
And then last question here from Stephanie B. Will the cryopipe shields on the OLM be installed before OTF?
The cryopipes?
I'm assuming so.
Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah.
She's asking if the bottom side of the OLM will be shielded, the cryo tubes.
Oh. They'd have to be, wouldn't they? Like
They
those.
don't have to be.
Well,
but
isn't that a
they-
nitrogen pipe down there? If you don't cover it, it's not going to be very
I mean, it's all of the pipes. It's
contained.
the liquid oxygen, liquid methane, everything.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely they've baked the cake and now they're icing it and everything's getting covered. So
Is it a bunt cake?
yes, it's a bunt cake. Anyways, yeah, they're butting everything up, so
It'll
it would be
interesting.
pretty obvious that they would do the bottom as well.
It'll be interesting to see what it looks like when they take off all the scaffolding and everything's on, because it kind of looks like, forgive me, an elephant with like, or a rhino with like gear on, like protective gear. And
It's very armored. You're right.
Armored. That's the word I was looking for.
Once it's been painted, this will look so nice. Like right now, it looks pretty good. It's gonna look even better. Just imagining the bottom with some plates and covers. Just the whole thing is gonna be so nice to look at.
So now that Elon has a daughter, you think he'll paint it pink?
Probably not.
I'll take your silence
Nah.
till we know.
I mean, if you're trying to say it looks like an elephant, and you're trying to do a pink elephant.
Oh wow, I wasn't, but thank you for that.
Now there's that imagery in your head.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I'm actually thinking of Fantasia. Anywho,
That was all the questions I had on my end. I don't know if you all want to cover anything else, or should we just wrap it up?
yeah, we're about 6 minutes out till the top of the hour.
We've got over about 15 minutes or so on each episode of the last two, so I think that this would average out.
That's funny. Stephanie said, "Thank you, CSI Starbase. Zach understands me." I'd like to think I understand you too, Steph. I'm just kidding.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you all for being here as well too. I think we can wrap it up here if we don't have any more questions, or if there was anything that we didn't cover that you're thinking about, Thomas.
Nothing directly.
What about indirectly? Sorry.
Well, I guess that will be it for me today. Thank you all for being here. Always excited to do these shows every week, and thank you, Mauricio, as well, for being able to get up there and take all of these awesome pictures for us, especially this one. Hopefully we'll have some good weather next week. SN11 season is ending soon, so hopefully the rest of the year will be good until we get to the fall. But I'll pass this off to Thomas.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure again this week at Starbase and having so much fun going through all these images with you guys. Off to you, Mauricio.
Yes, thanks everybody for supporting and for watching. Share the stream with somebody else and hit that like button. And we did get a membership gifted by Jim Cavett. So thank you, Jim Cavett. And I'll pass this along. Thank you very much.
We also got a $20 donation from James L. just now. Thank you, James. Hope you guys will join us next week. Mauricio, hope you have good weather and you can fly as you have the plane already reserved. And I look forward to seeing you all then. And thank you, gents, both Tom, I was going to call you CSI, both Zach and Thomas. You guys make this so much more interesting, so much more understandable, so much more relatable. I know I appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure everyone else does too. So thank you both so much. And with that,
Of course.
I'll say goodbye. Does anyone want to do the Miko?
You can do it.
Oh, gee, never mind. Bye, guys.